In Naruto, I start with a Seireitei. Hello again, dear adventurers of the multiverse. Thanks for joining us once more on this epic journey. Remember, this story is pure science fiction from our wild imagination. So don't go trying to summon dragons in your backyard. The rights of this amazing novel belong entirely to its original author. We are only the narrators. Do you want more adventures? Show some love to our YouTube channel with a subscription and a like. And if you want exclusive content, our Patreon is waiting for you with open arms. Chapter 26 Second Lottery. Gin Ichimaru was wrong. He simply didn't understand what a mad scientist was. Gin looked at Nami Kaguya's meaningful smile with a mixture of tears and hope. He strongly suspected that this scene had been foreseen even before she was awakened, otherwise, how could she have so easily agreed to his ranking proposal? Nami Kaguya removed her mask, waved for Mayuri Kuratsuchi and Gin Ichimaru to catch up, and then left alone to walk to a tree in the distance, considerately leaving her two old friends a private space to whisper. Well, he had anticipated this scenario, but Mayuri's performance still exceeded his expectations. However, it wasn't a major issue. It could only be said that the power revealed by the cheat system was, to some extent, infinitely close to the truth located at the edge of the universe, and that kind of temptation was self-evident to a mad scientist. Mayuri Kuratsuchi, as expected of a top-tier mad scientist, sensed the traces of truth within his body the moment he awoke, and then keenly realized that the key to unlocking truth was in the hands of the successor Soul King. So, the confinement of the body and the restriction of the soul? I can feel it, so I'll lift it. Mayuri Kuratsuchi glanced at Gin Ichimaru indifferently, his gaze as if looking at a foolish monkey. Can't you feel this perfect, natural perfection? Gin Ichimaru was speechless. He was in despair precisely because he couldn't sense any flaws. 100% spirit particle exchange rate, the fusion frequency of the soul and the prosthetic body completely overlaps, without a single flaw. Do you know what this means? Normally, Mayuri Kuratsuchi wouldn't bother explaining things to an illiterate person, but today, he was so excited that he decided to waste time explaining some common sense to Gin Ichimaru. For example, a naturally born healthy human has a perfectly functioning heart and body. But even so, when measured with the most advanced instruments, there will still be occasional noises and disordered frequencies in the heart. Not to mention the more complex relationship between the soul and the body, the flaws and defects are countless. But this prosthetic body has not a single flaw. The body and the soul are like two mirrors reflecting each other, perfectly fused together. It's simply unbelievable. Even innate conception has its flaws, let alone the modifications made by acquired technology. But feel this prosthetic body. You can perfectly control every muscle and bone in your body, control the flow of blood at every moment, control the frequency of your heartbeat, control the volume of your breath, and even adjust the shape of your pores. You have absolutely never carefully felt this prosthetic body, otherwise you would have discovered even more suffocating details, making it impossible for you to even have such a foolish thought. Mayuri Kuratsuchi's tone was fanatical, but hidden within that fanaticism was a deep-seated fear. This involves atomic-level control technology, the principle of resurrection, cell cloning and soul replication technology, the self-evolution of the soul, and countless other unbelievable technologies. Most of these technologies only exist in theoretical imagination, and it is unimaginable that so many technologies could be perfectly combined to create such a prosthetic body. Can you imagine the difficulty? It's as if the creator reshaped your body, and the price is only a negligible confinement and restriction. To be honest, I don't have the ability to break free, and I don't even dare to have such a thought. Ignorance is bliss. The creator implanted a confinement within you, and you, instead of being grateful, want to break free? Do you think the creator is too merciful? Mayuri Kuratsuchi truly envied Gin Ichimaru's ignorance and fearlessness. Too many Shinigami believed they could accomplish anything with a single Zanpakuto. Mayuri couldn't understand how these Shinigami's thought processes developed. I advise you not to entertain that thought again. Mayuri cautioned. After saying this, he fell silent, instead raising a finger in front of his eyes, manipulating the parasitic worms within him to swarm out from his fingernail and then burrow back into his body from other parts, like a child with a new toy testing its functions. Thinking about such nonsense is pointless. It's better to focus on something more important. Mayuri lovingly caressed his body, the more he experienced its unparalleled beauty. To have his soul awakened before the other squad leaders was truly blissful. You're not just afraid to undo it, you're clearly enjoying it. Gin Ichimaru's expression was uncertain. He truly couldn't understand the mad scientist's abnormal thought process. Compared to him, Sosuke Aizen seemed like a normal person. Gin Ichimaru fully realized that painstakingly awakening Mayuri Kuratsuchi was a major strategic mistake. He could only swallow this bitter pill himself. What was worse, Mayuri Kuratsuchi's mad ramblings actually made a tiny bit of sense. Had something gone wrong during the awakening process, causing Mayuri Kuratsuchi to lose her mind? Gin Ichimaru only believed 3/10 of Mayuri Kuratsuchi's words, the remaining 7/10 were his stubbornness and pride. He gently stroked the hilt of his Zanpakuto, looked at Mayuri Kuratsuchi who was laughing like a fool, sighed deeply, forced a smile, and walked towards the spot where Chairman Nami had left. Under the withered vine tree, a few withered yellow vines landed on Kaguya Nami's shoulders. He tilted his head back, gazing at the moon above, recalling a lonely night 3 years ago when he first arrived, looking up at the sky in the same way. Now, he was no longer alone. Through his own efforts, he had earned 2 loyal subordinates. This struggle had been agonizing. He had spent 3 years of his youth, growing from a 9-year-old boy into a 200-year-old Grim Reaper. Compared to those awesome transmigrators of the past, Kaguya Nami's performance was still too ordinary, nothing to be proud of. Now, with a 90% off sale ending, he could finally focus on drawing a prize. Remaining achievement points: 1087. He reached out, carefully cleaning away the dust and scraping the blood from under his fingernails, restoring his hands to their cleanest state. Then, he slowly extended his right hand, very devoutly pointing it towards the air. Although she couldn't click on it, the lottery wheel was directly reflected on her retina. But life needs a little sacred ritual, and Kaguya Nami firmly believed this would increase her chances of winning the grand prize. As the queen of the Grim Reapers, if there were any unseen deities controlling luck, they would surely have heard her sincere prayer. Lottery. Kaguya Nami said softly, then prayed frantically in her mind. S-rank skills, god-tier equipment, top-tier cards. I'm not picky, I'll take any of them. I'm a Grim Reaper, I don't discriminate. The wheel spun wildly. You've won. The water god of war returns. By the way, can you guess what you won in the lottery? Chapter 27 Card, Magician Hisoka. The rewards on the lottery roulette wheel come from anime or games. Skill stones, adorned with various colorful icons, exude an aura that is powerful, eerie, evil, or sacred. These appear most frequently in the fleeting after images of the roulette wheel, theoretically offering the highest probability of drawing a skill. Oddly shaped equipment, appearing in sets, individually, or in fragments, are interspersed among the skill stones, with a slightly lower probability of being drawn. Vibrant runes, symbolizing orthodox or unorthodox paths, connect to talents extracted from countless characters and monsters from anime or game worlds, appearing with similar frequency to equipment. A chaotic array of miscellaneous items appears without any pattern, sometimes appearing in large numbers, sometimes none at all, making the probability of being drawn highly variable. The various cards, some dark, some sinister, some bright, some pristine, appeared and disappeared on the roulette wheel, their positions so distinct that the pointer would twitch intermittently each time it landed on a card, much like the shutter of a claw machine when a prize is finally picked up. Kaguya Nami exclaimed that the roulette wheel was rigged. Clearly, the cards were the rarest and most valuable. Kaguya Nami had no hope of drawing a card, but her eyes remained stubbornly fixed on it, narrowing into peach shapes with each turn. The roulette wheel spun about 10 times, passing countless items, but the number of times cards appeared was countable on one hand. She could only catch a glimpse of 4 cards with her naked eye, and she instantly memorized their appearance. One card depicts a lone figure seated atop a blood-soaked throne littered with corpses, his gaze arrogant and domineering, radiating an aura of supreme power. The card is easily recognizable as belonging to Ryomen Sukuna from the Jujutsu Kaisen series. Another card shows a tall, bareback man with a ring of 3 tomo drums piercing his back, shrouded in swirling clouds. While his face is obscured, Kaguya deduces that this card represents Ainel from the One Piece universe. The third card features a comical bald man carrying a vegetable basket and wearing a tablecloth-like cloak, definitely Saitama from One Punch Man. The final card features a vertical pupil tearing through the sky, resembling an indescribable evil god. Its origin is unknown, and Kaguya doesn't recognize it. As the roulette wheel gradually stopped spinning, Kaguya Nami suppressed her budding infatuation and returned to the cold, cruel reality. A line of text flashed across her retina, and a card quietly emerged from the depths of her pupils. A card. Kaguya Nami's pupils contracted to pinpoints, her smile blooming beneath her mask, as if she had suddenly been confessed to by her crush. Happiness had come too suddenly. The back of the card featured a pink playing card image, the Joker. A gentle tap flipped it over, revealing a tall, slender figure wearing clothes printed with playing card patterns, her wine-red hair wildly styled, and makeup depicting stars and teardrops, a bewitching and sexy beauty. In the blank space on the card were small, blood-red words, "The magician knows no impossibility. Hisoka, you have obtained the character card Hisoka, a rank 2 star card, strength plus 10, agility plus 20, spirit plus 25, talents. 1. Magician's deception, A. 2. Perverted aesthetics, S. Magician's deception. You can see through all the factors in battle and use them. Your fighting style is full of gorgeousness and deception, like watching a beautiful but deadly magic show. Perverted aesthetics, seek out unripe fruit, cultivate it persistently, and taste the ripe fruit at the peak of its fragrant bloom. Every time you complete this process, you will become stronger. Skills. 1. Bungee gum, A. 2. Thin illusion, B. Bungee gum. The transmutation nano-ability gives your Aki the properties of both chewing gum and rubber. Thin illusion, you can transform Aki into skin that displays various textures. Hisoka, from the Hunter x Hunter world, is a morbid yet captivating villain. Although limited by the limitations of the Hunter x Hunter world and the constraints of humanity itself, his strength cannot compare to the overpowered cards mentioned earlier. However, in terms of talent and charisma alone, he is arguably no weaker than any other character. Although she's not one of those bewitching ladies, she's still a goddess who makes my heart flutter. Kaguya Nami beamed with joy, overjoyed. As expected of an A-rank card, or rather, even among A-rank cards, this card ranks highly in value. Aside from the increased attribute points, an S-rank talent, plus an A-rank talent and an A-rank skill, is enough to validate the card's worth. Current card status 03, 3 empty slots remaining. Equip this card. Equip. Kaguya Nami didn't hesitate and immediately chose to equip the card. In an instant, amidst a sickly, gleeful laugh, a tall figure gracefully approached him, surrounded by playing cards laced with hidden killing intent. He stood before Kaguya Nami, chewing gum and spitting out a pink bubble. Everything is in your hands. Remember, I love tasting unripe, delicious apples. Snap. The gum bubble burst, and Hisoka laughed maniacally, his figure gradually fading into his black robe and hori. Beneath the pale white mask, another blurry face seemed to silently seep into her features, adding a touch of delicate, feminine beauty to Kaguya Nami's original appearance. Thus, his attribute panel changed to, name, Kaguya Nami life form, Shinigami, perfect grade armored ghoul, identity 1/3, Lord of the Seireitei, Soul King, card 1/3, Magician Hisoka, a rank 2 star card, equipment. 0/6 HP. 2840/2840 energy. 1710 strength. 27 agility. 41 spirit. 55 skills. Shikatsu Myaku, ghoul, perfect superposition of Shikatsu Myaku and armored ghoul. Shinigami basic ability pack, slash fist and oni walk, blood sacrifice, A, bending and bending love, A, thin illusion, B, talent, perverted aesthetics, S, magician's deception, A, Hisoka's talent and abilities merged seamlessly into his armored gear, becoming as natural as breathing for Kaguya Nami to absorb completely. Also absorbed were Hisoka's countless combat experiences, and the intense pleasure he derived from chasing and fighting, all of which were incorporated into Kaguya Nami's soul. A green and fragrant apple. Of course, who can resist such a taste? Kaguya Nami murmured. He could feel Hisoka's obsession being integrated into his soul, but he didn't find it too objectionable. Having obtained all of Hisoka's power, inheriting a bit of his obsession was only to be expected. It was just a harmless quirk, no need to fuss over it. Kaguya Nami bit her finger, and with her blood, she gently drew a teardrop-shaped pattern below the eye socket of her pale white mask, instantly making the otherwise monotonous mask vibrant and alluring. In the distance, Gin Ichimaru approached. I'm not a fan of missing chapters. I quickly typed it out and posted it to praise myself, and I'm asking for monthly votes and recommendation votes. If you are listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means it was downloaded and re-uploaded without effort. we warmly invite you to visit our channel, Fanfic World. There you will find the original version of this story and many other novels of various genres. We look forward to seeing you dive into a world of incredible novels. Chapter 28: The Poverty Alleviation Goals of the Seireitei. Beneath the withered vines an old tree, a black robe and houri fluttered without wind, fingertips prying a blood-red tear from a pale mask. This scene, seen by the approaching Ichimaru Jin, was like a desolate, somber ink painting unfurled, revealing a bewitching, morbid beauty. The person was still the same. Only a few minor embellishments had been added, and yet the entire person's aura had undergone a dramatic transformation, a chilling unfamiliarity, yet with a vague, unsettling sense of déjà vu. A tear was plucked from the calm, pale mask. President Nami, are you subtly hinting at something? Gin Ichimaru banished the distracting thoughts from his mind, stopped, and bowed slightly, his usual smile conveying his respect. President Nami, are you tired of the old mask? Mayuri Kuratsuchi can make you a new one that suits your taste. I just wanted to add a few touches of color, and it's already finished. Nami Kaguya smiled, her eyes narrowing as she looked at Gin Ichimaru. You've already finished catching up with your old friend? Captain Mayuri, is there a problem? As she spoke, the sinister and dangerous aura emanating from Nami Kaguya vanished, and her eyes returned to their deep and peaceful state. Gin Ichimaru observed everything calmly. It seems the awakening went smoothly. Mayuri Kuratsuchi praised the suitable JK. Congratulations, President Nami, on gaining another trustworthy squad leader. This brings us closer to awakening the remaining 11 squad leaders. At that time, the restoration of the Seireitei's glory will be just around the corner. Not enough, far from enough. Nami Kaguya stretched elegantly. Although my strength has been slightly unleashed, it's still not enough for Captain Gin Ichimaru to truly draw his sword. I'm still far from being qualified to truly lead the Gotei 13. After all, according to your ranking and comments on the other squad leaders, none of them are as purely loyal as Mayuri Kuratsuchi, or as gentle and trustworthy as Captain Gin Ichimaru. Is that so? Was that hint of regret in your tone that I didn't see you drawing your sword against me just my imagination? Gin Ichimaru caught a key phrase, and a chilling thought flashed through his mind. His smile became slightly unnatural as he changed the subject. So, what's the next plan, Chairman? Mayuri Kuratsuchi, his face half covered in insects and surrounded by swarming parasites, also approached, listening intently to Chairman Nami's next instructions. The land of water is too barren, lacking the nutrients to bear fruit. We need to find a new place to settle. The major ninja villages are all stubbornly feudal, with too much filth and corruption behind the scenes that I don't like. Therefore, we'll go and offer some warmth and care to the smaller ninja villages, helping them develop and build. This can also be considered as promoting the humanitarian ideals of the Seireitei. Kaguya Nami succinctly outlined the Seireitei's next development path. President Nami's speaking style is just so subtle and indirect, you'll understand eventually. Gin Ichimaru explained to Mayuri Kuratsuchi, who was completely bewildered upon arrival. Translated, this means to first occupy a small ninja village. Mayuri Kuratsuchi's eyes lit up slightly, his mouth stretched into an exaggerated grin, and he burst into laughter. I love President Nami's artistic speaking style, it adds a touch of romantic warmth to the otherwise cold Seireitei. A mad scientist offering such refreshingly unconventional flattery made Kaguya Nami's face flush slightly, while Gin Ichimaru was inwardly shocked and felt the pressure of the intense competition among his colleagues. I'll have to trouble Captain Mayuri Kuratsuchi to make me a deck of cards. No problem. If you have any special aesthetic requirements, or need any additions to the materials or functions, please let me know. I'll guarantee to make it 100% to your liking. Just ordinary playing cards, the material should be durable and wear-resistant. Understood. I'll use the toughest material, and I'll wax and coat the surface after it's finished. Mayuri Kuratsuchi shamelessly fawned, completely lacking the pride of a genius scientist. He pulled out a small notebook from his pocket and diligently wrote down the chairman's requirements. Making a deck of cards, not creating the Hajioku, this is going too far. Gin Ichimaru's mouth gaped open, while Kaguya Nami's eyes shone as she watched Mayuri Kuratsuchi's habit of carrying a small notebook, a feeling of mutual understanding and camaraderie welling up within her. He pulled a treasured small wooden bottle from his pocket and handed it to Mayuri Kuratsuchi, saying generously, "This contains the Byakugan of the Hyuga clan, a precious material for a renowned Jujutsu-type bloodline limit in the ninja world. Captain Mayuri, you can take it and study it. Yes, I certainly won't let President Nami down. Mayuri accepted the small wooden bottle with both hands. Captain Gin Ichimaru seems quite disgusted with Orochimaru's remains. I was inconsiderate before, so I'll entrust them to Mayuri for safekeeping as well. Nami Kaguya slapped her forehead and apologized to Gin Ichimaru. Gin Ichimaru stiffly pulled a sealing scroll from his sleeve, his heart filled with mixed emotions. Mayuri Kuratsuchi snatched it away without hesitation, his joy overflowing. Under his manipulation, even the parasitic insects on his face displayed a smiling chibi expression. Which small ninja village will you be providing aid to, President Nami? Do you have a preferred target yet? A sense of urgency washed over me, and Ichimaru-jin quickly cut short Mayuri Kuratsuchi's performance, steer the conversation back on track. Let's go with Kusagakure. Kaguya Nami had already made up her mind. The ninja world wasn't huge, but it wasn't small either. There were only a handful of small ninja villages that could be considered significant. Leveraging her foresight regarding the plot, she quickly sifted through the list and narrowed it down to a few candidates. After considering historical and environmental factors, Kusagakure emerged victorious, becoming the Seireitei's first choice for aid. Kusagakure belonged to the Land of Grass, which had once been a powerful nation, even boasting the title of the strongest ninja nation in history. However, it later declined, split, and perished. The current Land of Grass is merely a small rebuilt piece of its former ruins, a tiny country struggling to survive in the cracks. Kusagakure had also fallen into decline, but this didn't diminish its value as a nation with a long and rich history. This point was appreciated by Kaguya Nami, as it relates to her long-term plan for the revival of the Seireitei. Another advantage is the advantageous geographical location of the Grass Village. It borders the treacherous and domineering Fire and Earth villages, and is also adjacent to the most secretive and powerful village in the entire ninja world, the Rain Village. This is ideal, maximizing Kaguya Nami's ability to frequently stir up trouble. Moreover, being neighbors with the strongest ninja group in the world is exciting, perfectly fulfilling Kaguya's fantasies about script writing. The name Grass Village is great, it sounds very artistic. Mayuri Kuratsuchi unconditionally supported Chairman Nami's wise decision. Gin Ichimaru, not to be outdone, smiled and said, I believe the Grass Village is eager to see us. The following text appears to be promotional material and is not directly related to the preceding paragraph. Update time, between 10 to 11 a.m. and 5 to 6 p.m. The first 2 chapters will be released. After release, please don't let it die. The author is begging and pleading to keep reading. Chapter 29. No one knows how to lie better than me. A light drizzle fell from the sky, splashing onto the crisscrossing drainage pipes. The steel buildings, arranged in a staggered pattern, seamlessly integrated the city's rugged, three-dimensional form with its sophisticated drainage system, creating an atmosphere of strange cyberpunk. The tallest building in the city center was a colossal Buddha statue, its head grotesque and eerie, its eyes tattooed with circular patterns. A hideous, winding tongue protruded from its mouth, seemingly enduring the filth and sins that the rain could not cleanse. This Buddha was not benevolent, but coldly evil. A black cloud with red patterns sat atop the tongue, one leg dangling in the air, its indifferent eyes surveying everything. The patterns in those eyes were identical to those in the eyes of the evil Buddha, rings upon rings resembling an endless cycle of suffering. Suddenly, pieces of white paper flew over, quickly piecing together to form a human figure. She wore a long robe with a black background and red clouds, and her long, blue-purple hair was coiled on top of her head with a paper flower symbolizing death and mourning. She stood behind the person in front, her light purple eyeshadow reflecting the cold rain. She spoke, the latest intelligence gathered by Zetsu has arrived, emphasizing an organization called the 13 Guardians of the Gotei 13. The indifferent voice betrayed no emotion, the eyes of a god never cast a single, deliberate glance. Afei seems quite interested in this organization I've never heard of before, Conan said, frowning. She remained highly wary of the masked man. I'm very curious why Afei is interested in this organization. Aren't you curious? Under my watchful eyes, the world will eventually face destruction and rebirth. At that time, all the secrets hidden beneath the dust will vanish completely with the dust. Why should I care? Nagato slowly turned around. In the instant he turned, the puppets created by the Rinnegan were summoned out of thin air, standing like 6 living people behind him. One of the figures was particularly cold and intimidating. He stretched out a hand and quietly placed it on Nagato's shoulder. Nagato tilted his head back, letting the cold rain stream down his face. A chilling, terrifying chakra erupted from his body, surging and flowing into the 6 puppet shells behind him. My masterpiece is complete. The era of Akatsuki is about to begin. We will be the last gods of this world, bringing an end to the darkness that shrouds the ninja world, letting the dawn of a new world, tinged with the color of blood, shine upon this land. Whether it's the obstruction of the 5 great shinobi villages, or the true identity and purpose of Tobi, we need not concern ourselves with them, for ultimately no one and no organization can defy the power represented by these eyes. We need not be distracted by anything else, nor do anything superfluous. We simply need to proceed with Akatsuki's plan step by step, and the world will unfold as we desire. From beginning to end, Nagato never mentioned the Seireitei or the Gotei 13. He simply didn't care about these suddenly appearing, insignificant little organizations, even if they might soon become his neighbors. I understand. Konan was convinced by Nagato's confidence. She stared at Nagato, her expression slightly dazed, and at the puppet, Pain, who had placed his hand on Nagato's shoulder. For a moment, she seemed lost in memories. After a while, she wiped the rain from her face, her eyes regaining their coldness. The Akatsuki's plan can now gradually move to its second phase. We're still a bit short-handed, we can start expanding the Akatsuki's personnel pool. Nagato's completion of the Rinnegan 6 paths meant he had achieved initial, comprehensive control over the Rinnegan's power. With this, their power had risen another level, and Konan no longer needed to worry about Nagato's control over the Akatsuki being insufficient. Therefore, the candidates already identified in the initial investigation could be gradually screened and invited into the organization. The Akatsuki officially entered the expansion and recruitment phase. It's just that it's unclear who the new members recruited will be this time. It's inexplicably exciting. A quarter of an hour later, Rakuto, Nagato, and Konan disappeared from the slightly crowded Buddha hut's tongue. A while later, a pitcher plant sprouted from between the Buddha's eyebrows, and a half-black, half-white humanoid creature broke free and slid out, its feet landing on the tongue, standing where Konan had just been. At the same time, strange ripples appeared in the air, gradually rotating into a twisted vortex. A distorted figure wearing a mask emerged from the vortex, stepping onto the spot where Nagato had just been, then gesticulating wildly and letting out 2 strange laughs, adding a bizarre and comical touch to the mysterious atmosphere. Black Zetsu, a straw between his teeth, glanced at Uchiha Madara, Obito, and Tobi with a nonchalant air, and said in a low voice, "The completion of the 6 paths of reincarnation means that Nagato has fully mastered the power of the Rinnegan." Wow, that sounds amazing. The eyes behind the spiral-patterned mask gleamed with a crimson light. He seemed so arrogant just now. How do you plan to ensure that Nagato doesn't slip out of our control? The Rinnegan needs to absorb Nagato's life force to grow and develop. There's no way around it. Zetsu sighed and said, "We don't need to control Nagato. We just need to secretly guide the Akatsuki to complete the preliminary work for our Eye of the Moon plan. Until the final stage is revealed, our goals are aligned with Nagato's." Tobi nodded non-committally. To prevent any mishaps in the plan, we need to take advantage of Akatsuki's expansion to plant more of our own people within the organization. Old Silver Coin Zetsu, always fond of adding safeguards to his plans, suggested, since Akatsuki's plan is about to enter its second phase, it's time to find an opportunity to orchestrate a defection scenario for Kisame Hoshigaki and then introduce him to Akatsuki. This will reduce our control over the Blood Mist Village. There's a 13th Division organization secretly operating that might have some knowledge of these secrets. Is this alright? A fair glint appeared in Tobi's eyes. Kisame Hoshigaki is making a mountain out of a molehill. What can an unknown little organization cause? Black Zetsu, whose age was almost as long as the history of the ninja world, scoffed at the old man of the Seireitei. In his eyes, the entire ninja world held no secrets. If there was anything he didn't know, it could only be a fabricated lie. Who could lie better than me? There's no need to pay attention. At least, Nagato is right. The ending was already decided, and we don't need to concern ourselves with any unexpected twists and turns. The true lie detector of the ninja world, Zetsu, declared confidently. I rolled, jumped, closed my eyes, chasing the power of tickets and rewards. Chapter 30 The Lead Kingpin, or Ichimaru? In the damp, gloomy room, bottles and jars were scattered everywhere. Colorful venomous snakes, their tongues flicking, crawled across the wooden floor. Kimimaro, thin and with 2 red birthmarks between his brows, sat in the corner, expressionless, drawing blood from his own body with a syringe. Since meeting Lord Orochimaru, Kimimaro had found his purpose in life. Although he was still weak and unable to help Orochimaru, the bloodline limit of the Kaguya clan was extremely valuable for research. He would draw as much blood as possible from his body each day as reserve material for Orochimaru's experiments. Blood contained genetic code. The blood flowing through his body might very well carry the secrets of his bloodline limit. Creak. The door opened, and Orochimaru, pale and weak, seemingly devoid of any color in his body, walked in. Lord Orochimaru, what happened? Kimimaro was startled. He pulled out the syringe, letting the blood spurt from his veins. Orochimaru's grin stretched to his ears, his long, thin tongue unconsciously licking his dry, cracked lips. His tone was sinister and excited. Nothing much, just accidentally discovered a very interesting vessel. He managed to escape for now, hehe. Kimimaro, blood is precious, don't waste it. Ah, yes. Kimimaro quickly bandaged his wound, his mind preoccupied with the vessel Orochimaru mentioned. Orochimaru had embellished the outcome, glossing over the unpleasant process in between. He couldn't very well reveal the whole truth to Kimimaro. Orochimaru, had his pride too. The truth was, after defecting from Konoha, he had maintained contact with Shimura Danzo. This trip to the black market was to arrange a meeting with Root for a transaction, but instead of Root, he encountered a Byakugan. So, Orochimaru silently watched the spectacle from the shadows, appearing harmless throughout. However, unable to suppress his scientist's burning curiosity, he dipped his finger into the writhing blood on the ground. The blood contained no chakra fluctuations, eerily clean, seemingly just pure blood. Somewhat puzzled, he boldly put his finger in his mouth and licked it. In that instant, his sensitive tongue went numb. He detected a strange, evil, cruel, and greedy energy within the blood. Then, as the drop of blood was swallowed, all the blood vessels in his body instantly severed, and gushing blood sprayed from his pores. Despite having no visible wounds, the blood kept gushing out. Orochimaru performed a human-shaped sprayer act, decisively discarding the body as if shedding its skin, and a new body emerged and burrowed into the ground, disappearing without a trace. Even after using the Orochi-style substitution technique to quickly teleport his true body outside the blood sacrifice's range, the after effects of having all his blood drained remained. His newly generated blood was barely a third of his full strength. He'd been tricked. The key was that the person who tricked him probably didn't even know he was there. He shouldn't have tasted that blood. He slunk away, never even showing his face. In Orochi's life, this was a completely new experience. Looking back, he felt a mix of frustration, smug satisfaction, and confusion, with 91 points of lingering resentment. Could this unknown power to manipulate blood be some kind of secret technique? Or a special bloodline limit? Is it possible for this ability to be applied to the research field of bloodline limits? Orochimaru pondered this question the entire way. The potential value of this ability was very tempting to him. He licked his lips, a sickly flush rising to his face, and muttered a sinister decision. Hey, what a wonderful idea. I will definitely obtain this vessel. Does Lord Orochimaru value this vessel very much? Kimimaro asked, somewhat jealous. It's different. This vessel is completely different in value from yours. I have a feeling that this vessel might become the most unique one among all my collections. Orochimaru chuckled strangely, muttering, where should I look for this vessel? On the tranquil sea, a temporarily requisitioned cargo ship sailed peacefully. On the damp, moldy deck, a faint smell of the sea lingered. Kaguya Nami stood at the bow, arms outstretched, letting the sea breeze billow her black robes. Behind her, Ichimaru Jin stood quietly, smiling as he gazed at the gradually clearing outline of land. Mayuri Kuratsuchi sat on the ground, intently manipulating a doll in his hands. He stretched it from human to snake, its texture supple, its pale skin revealing faint black spots, as if countless parasites were wriggling beneath. Whether Orochimaru could turn Kaguya Nami into a vessel for his collection remained to be seen. But clearly, Mayuri had already made the most of her remains. You have achieved the achievement, Orochimaru's obsession. Orochimaru's obsession, since we parted without a word, I think of you while eating, drinking, and sleeping. My mind is filled with thoughts of you. Orochimaru is obsessed with your body. Achievement points. 1000, you've achieved the achievement, Kimimaro's jealousy. Kimimaro's jealousy, Orochimaru sees you as a unique vessel, which has ignited Kimimura's intense competitive spirit. Achievement points. 500, unwittingly, 1,500 achievement points were credited to her account. Kaguya Nami turned and looked suspiciously at the puppet in Mayuri Kuratsuchi's hand, her eyes thoughtful. Orochimaru is really going all the way across the ocean to offer his help. A rough calculation shows she's already squeezed 2,500 points out of Orochimaru, and he hasn't even given her a second glance. Is this the legendary leek harvesting master? Kaguya Nami's eyes gleamed, and a wicked thought suddenly formed in her mind. Should she head to Tagakura and harvest some more leeks? Yes, actually, thinking about it, while Tagakura doesn't have a long history, Orochimaru is there. Orochimaru possessed a quality similar to Hisoka. They both enjoyed cultivating unripe apples. The difference was that Hisoka let them grow freely, waiting for them to ripen before harvesting and destroying them. Orochimaru, on the other hand, was more responsible, taking them under his wing, teaching by example, and ultimately even becoming fertilizer for the fruits himself. So professional. Kaguya Nami felt inferior and kindly decided to temporarily spare Orochimaru, giving him time to cultivate his unripe fruits, and then harvest them all at once when a large number of fruits were ripe. Unbeknownst to Orochimaru, a villain had already been secretly watching him in his Sound Village. Orochimaru had temporarily escaped a calamity. The ship has docked, Nami-sama, the grass village isn't far, Gin Ichimaru reminded her, pulling Kaguya Nami back to reality from her beautiful future plans. Reality meant drawing a prize to calm her nerves. Kaguya Nami nodded, tapping the prize wheel, a way of testing her luck for this trip. You've drawn one piece of equipment, Shadow Shrine. See, a purple, grotesque urn with demonic horns was flung out of the roulette wheel. This week's test recommendation is crucial. How far can a book go? If you find this book passable and helpful for relieving your reading slump, please vote for it with recommendation tickets, monthly tickets, and investments, the free kind, to nurture this seedling and prevent it from withering away. A small donation is also welcome, but please do so within your means. Most importantly, please follow the story. Follow the story. You absolutely must follow the story. Kidian's recommendation rules state that without following, there's no recommendation, and without recommendations, the book dies. Please don't let the book sit idle during the recommendation period, it will die. This is a tragic lesson Guoyuman taught me. This newbie is trembling as I tell you, please follow the story. Please, please. Chapter 31, First Equipment. This time, she drew an item, but it was only a C grade. Kaguya Nami, whose tastes had been spoiled by the previous two draws, smirked. Had her luck as a lucky charm finally run out? Kaguya Nami took a deep breath, calmed herself, and focused her attention back on the item's description. Shadow Shrine, C, a strange box containing the ashes of a powerful demon. Whenever an energy unit dies near you, its soul is imprisoned and locked within the shrine, thus gaining energy. All attributes +2 energy recovery +1.4 S armor +2 A new armor slot appeared on Kaguya Nami's attribute panel, with a value of 2 points. So she was originally a squishy character with 0 armor. At least a new tag was activated. Usage, active release when released on a friendly unit, provides 30 horsepower recovery per second. When released on an enemy unit, deals 25 horsepower damage per second. PS, each release consumes 1 energy point. Recharging is done by absorbing the soul of a freshly deceased unit. The deceased unit must have been an energy-containing professional in life, and the distance must be within a 400-meter radius. 1 deceased unit equals 1 energy point, Kaguya Nami thought to herself with disdain, but her body betrayed her by placing the Shadow Shrine into her empty equipment slot. Finally, one of the 6 equipment slots was occupied. Poor as she was, she had no right to be picky. 3 Grim Reapers in human skin left the ship, and the ship, which had been eerily silent, quickly disappeared on its own, vanishing in a flash. Mayuri Kuratsuchi and Gin Ichimaru followed Kaguya Nami on either side. Both of them simultaneously saw the urn that appeared out of thin air in the guild leader's hand, its unique design radiating an evil aura. But when they stared intently, the urn vanished without a trace. The entire process was like magic. Even with the sharp eyes of the 2 squad leaders, they couldn't figure out where the chairman had taken the urn from or where he had hidden it back on his body. Appearing and disappearing out of thin air, without any energy fluctuations, is it another one of those methods I can't understand? Gin Ichimaru thought calmly to himself. Has the chairman undergone special modifications to his body like me? Mayuri Kuratsuchi's body had been modified to contain various hidden mechanisms and devices, and this cyborg naturally perfectly replicated his modified body. He even had his scythe hidden in his ear. Mayuri Kuratsuchi and Gin Ichimaru exchanged a glance, each with their own thoughts. Putting them together, they were actually very close to the truth. Kaguya Nami only needed to place the equipment in the 6 slots of the cheat system, and the system would assume the equipment was already worn by the cyborg, allowing her to enjoy the equipment's attributes and use its skills. Of course, it could also manifest and solidify in reality. Functionally, there was no difference, seemingly unnecessary. But in certain practical applications, who knows? It can be shown to others. Kaguya Nami clutched the urn in her hand, her fingertips feeling its cold, solid texture. A wisp of nen, invisible to the naked eye, coiled around the urn, like a thin layer of skin covering its surface. Humans have more faith in what they can see, so seeing itself represents a power, something that can be used to manipulate and deceive. As a director, using the camera to manipulate, even control the audience's visual senses was almost an instinct ingrained in Kaguya Nami's bones. Observing the newly formed layer of skin on the surface of the Shadow Shrine, she made a slight adjustment to the upcoming aid plan for Kusagakure. Originally, they planned to infiltrate Kusagakure first, then gradually gain control of the village's leadership through bribery, kidnapping, assassination, threats, and other means. The advantage of this plan was its low profile and harmony, avoiding outside attention. The disadvantage was that it would take a little too long. Why not just attack Kusagakure directly and take control? Such a commotion would be too great, and it wouldn't be conducive to maintaining the image of the 13 guardians of the Seireitei as a force for justice. In the long run, it wouldn't be worth a risk. The Seireitei isn't a terrorist organization. Kaguya Nami's intention isn't to bring destruction to Kusagakure, but rather to foster a symbiotic relationship centered around the Seireitei. Now, Kaguya Nami has a flash of inspiration and a quicker, easier method. Perhaps the Shadow Shrine can be used to its full potential, far exceeding the value of a C-rank equipment. Kusagakure. In the dimly lit meeting room, the atmosphere was eerie and cold. Several Jonins sat around a table. Kusagakure didn't have a cage, so its management was relatively chaotic, but the hierarchy was very strict. All matters, large and small, in the village were decided by a vote of these elite Jonin, who then oversaw the various departments within the village, coordinating their operations. We just received news that Konoha is preparing to hold a joint Shunin exam and has invited our Kusagakure village to send a team of eligible Shinin to participate. The invitation has already been sent. Let's discuss whether we should participate. It sounds nice, called a joint Shunin exam, but it's really just a stage for powerful nations to scheme against each other and show off their strength. Inviting a small village like ours is just using our blood and corpses to create a spectacle, a backdrop to highlight their power. Their intentions are truly sinister. I don't recommend participating. We haven't participated for several years now. If we don't participate again, won't Konoha be unhappy? To be on the safe side, let's send 1 or 2 teams. Anyway, Jinan lives aren't worth much. It's their honor to contribute to the village's stability. If our Kusagakure village hadn't declined, we wouldn't be in this situation. Fine, let's settle this. The joint Shunin exam was quickly approved by vote. The atmosphere became serious, and Kusagakure began the last and most important item on the agenda of every meeting. For many years, the core of this agenda had remained unchanged. What's the situation over there lately? Over there refers to Hazuki Castle. Hazuki Castle is a prison built by various countries specifically to detain criminal ninjas. It's located on a remote island near Kusagakure, surrounded by the sea, and named for the many sour berries called Hazuki that grow there. The castle is managed by a faction that branch off from Kusagakure. The castle lord, Muwei, possesses incredibly powerful chakra sealing techniques and is the clan that has secretly kept the Box of Bliss for generations. The Box of Bliss is a secret passed down through generations of Kusagakure, a box that constantly devours lives and souls, possessing evil and extraordinary power. Legend has it that Kusagakure prospered because of it, but also perished because of it. They're still secretly feeding the Box of Bliss with prisoners from the prison, trying to awaken the power to open it. Muwei even sacrificed his own son's life for this, but it seems they haven't made any significant progress, said the head of the Kusagakure Anbu. Continue surveillance. Seconded. 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 The message remained unchanged, and each time it ended in the same unchanging manner. The attitude of Kusagakure towards the Hazuki Castle faction, which had branched off from Kusagakure, was always contradictory. On one hand, they guarded their secrets closely, hoping they would awaken the box of paradise and restore Kusagakure's ancient glory. On the other hand, they were wary and monitored, fearing that the faction would return to the village to seize power and strip them of their current status. Fortunately, nothing had changed. Hopefully, it will continue like this. Yesterday, during the LPL Spring Split Finals, many authors skipped watching the matches. If it were Kuyuman, he definitely would have skipped too, but right now I'm just an old tree on his grave, so I abandoned the live stream and quietly and diligently updated. I've grown. Please give me a thumbs up and hug the tree. Chapter 32 The 13th Guards Escorting Orochimaru. I am a Jonin of Kusagakure. I am the Lord of Hazuki Castle. I am Wu Wei. Once, to revitalize Kusagakure, I cruelly sacrificed prisoners one by one to the Box of Bliss, even sacrificing my own son. That day, I shed my last tear. I felt my heart stop beating. I continued to cruelly sacrifice more prisoners to the Box of Bliss, perhaps hoping to bring my son back. However, day after day, there was no hope. Until my face, gaunt like a knife's axe, revealed cold cheekbones, my long, black, high-collared robe fluttered in the night wind, a pair of numb, cruel eyes stared at the rocks being battered by the waves, their depths as desolate and gray as the rocks themselves. The prisoners are ready, a jailer wearing an ugly bull's head mask announced. Coming. Wu Wei's voice was numb. Each ritual offered as a sacrifice to the Box of Bliss could only be presided over by Wu Wei himself. The ceremony took place in the basement at the very bottom of Hazuki Castle, where the Box of Bliss was located. Prisoners bound to the operating table, their chakras sealed, were the carefully selected sacrificial offerings. When Wu Wei entered, the preparations for the ritual were complete. The unconscious prisoner lay motionless, his bare chest marked with seals that imprisoned chakra. Not far from the prisoner lay the sleeping Box of Bliss. A cube approximately 4 meters long, wide, and high, its surface was surrounded by serrated patterns. Its front featured a fanged demon face with tightly closed teeth, resembling either a petrified demon's head or a gate to the underworld. The sacrificial ritual was simple. Wu Wei walked over and placed his hands on the prisoner's chest. Guided by some secret technique, he instantly released the seal on the imprisoned chakra and connected the chain-like seals to the Box of Bliss. The next second, the prisoner's released chakra, mixed with his instantly drained life force and unseen soul, was guided into the Box of Bliss, where it was devoured by the terrifying demonic face. It only ate, never spat out. There was no response. The Box of Bliss remains unresponsive, still unable to be awakened and opened. Clearly, the quantity and quality of the sacrifices are insufficient. Damn it, the jailer with the bull's head covering his face said dejectedly. Using ordinary prisoners as sacrifices, to accumulate enough to awaken the Box of Bliss, it's unimaginable how many years it would take. We need higher quality prisoners, or, if we could capture a Jinchuriki and sacrifice the tailed beast inside, perhaps we could awaken the Box of Bliss, said another jailer with the same design. Silence. They're dreaming. If they had the ability to capture Jinchuriki, why would they be hiding here so furtively, only daring to secretly use prisoners as sacrifices? Why would they go to such lengths to build a prison to cover their tracks? Insufficient quality, compensate with quantity, this is the tragedy of a small ninja village. The prisoner's corpse was shriveled into a mere shell, the atmosphere slightly oppressive and somber. Wu Wei remained silent, turning to leave. He had long resolved that one day, even if it meant sacrificing every single prisoner in Hazuki Castle, he would awaken and open the Box of Bliss. The door opened from the outside, and a jailer rushed in, reporting in a panic, "New prisoners have arrived." In the dead of night, which village would send prisoners to Hazuki Castle? The jailers wearing bullhead hoods all looked over in unison. The reporting jailer stammered, his tongue trembling, "It's an unheard of ninja village, some kind of organization, with a strange name, something like the 13 Guardians of the Gotei 13. No one paid any attention to this news. Wu Wei had already stepped halfway out of the basement. Suddenly, the air seemed to freeze, because the jailer's next sentence involved an unbelievable name, Orochimaru. "What did you just say? I didn't hear you clearly, say it again." Wu Wei paused, turning back to stand before the jailer. The prisoner being escorted by the Gotei 13 is Orochimaru, an S-rank rogue ninja from Konoha. The jailer's teeth chattered as he blurted out, "That's what they said themselves." Orochimaru, one of the former legendary Sannin of Konoha, now a wanted S-rank rogue ninja, undoubtedly among the small group of cage-level ninjas standing at the pinnacle of the ninja world. If Orochimaru could be sacrificed to the box of bliss, would that be enough? A terrifying and dangerous thought, like a poisonous weed, simultaneously surfaced in everyone's minds. They exchanged glances, all feeling their breath quicken. Wait a minute, it's not Konoha escorting Orochimaru, but the Gotei 13? Without time to ponder where this strange organization came from, Wu Wei left the basement and hurried outside, eager to verify the jailer's report. The night-shrouded Hazuki Castle was quiet. All the prisoners had been returned to their cells, and most of the jailers had gone to sleep, leaving only the patrolmen and guards on duty. They were all gathered at the prison entrance, as if facing a formidable enemy. In stark contrast to their tension was a man wearing a stark white mask with a single tear of blood on it, idly playing with playing cards. The cards danced between his fingers, forming a blurry, illusory image. In any other setting, the onlookers might have found it pleasing to the eye, but in this moment, the scene was bizarre and astonishing. Before him knelt a man whose lower body was twisted like a snake, his upper body bound tightly behind his back, his face covered in blood, his eyes and tongue gouged out, a truly gruesome sight. Yet, a rustling sound, like a venomous snake flicking its tongue, still emanated from his throat. Orochimaru. Behind him stood two strange men dressed in black robes and houri. One wore a mask, a clown-like smile on his face, his neck twisting exaggeratedly as he curiously surveyed the surroundings. The other appeared relatively normal, but his skin and features were so exquisitely human that his forced smile sent chills down the spines of everyone who looked at him. Each of these three exuded a terrifying aura, claiming to be from the 13 divisions of the Gotei 13. They had been commissioned by Konoha to escort the rogue ninja Orochimaru to Hazuki Castle for the night. Is it really Orochimaru? Wu Wei rushed over, frowning at the strange group before him. He had never heard of these strange, unfamiliar names. He couldn't fathom the depths of any of these three, and in fact, he could barely sense any chakra fluctuations from them. Yet, he sensed a different, obscure, and terrifying aura surrounding them. That aura was strange, yet strangely familiar, as if he had encountered it somewhere before, but he couldn't quite place it. It must be Orochimaru. A jailer recognized Orochimaru's appearance and reported to Wu Wei, his eyes and tongue have been pulled out, and his hands are bound like a pretzel. Supposedly to prevent Orochimaru from escaping. His legs have become snake-like, supposedly a result of the backlash from Orochimaru's forbidden technique. This explanation was naturally fabricated by Kaguya Nami, but the face without eyes and tongue was 100% Orochimaru's, without any fabrication. Orochimaru's appearance was unique in the ninja world, highly recognizable, and anyone fortunate enough to have seen him alive would likely never forget him. As for how to make a corpse so lifelike, that was entirely thanks to Mayuri Kuratsuchi. He filled it with materials used for artificial bodies, giving it a full, fleshy texture, and then implanted parasitic insects to barely control the body. Of course, there were also some strange technological additions that Kaguya Nami couldn't comprehend. According to Mayuri Kuratsuchi, fooling these illiterate ninjas would be more than enough. Just one night's lodging, and then they're all imprisoned in Hazuki Castle? Wu Wei asked suspiciously after confirming Orochimaru's identity. Yes, just one night. People from Konoha will come to take him away tomorrow. Kaguya Nami looked at Wu Wei meaningfully and said, "You understand correctly, just one night's trouble, okay? What's the difference between writing without asking for votes and being a lazy bum? So, please give me monthly votes and recommendation votes." This cute newbie is rolling around begging for them. Chapter 33 I am a person who knows the rules. The prisoner was being transported and stopped at Hazuki Castle for the night. This strange organization, seemingly appearing out of nowhere, was treating the prison like a guest house? Unheard of. Since taking charge of Hazuki Castle, Wu Wei had never encountered such an absurd and rude request. Suppressing his inner turmoil, he calmly accepted. One night? No problem. Orochimaru's arrest is highly confidential. To prevent leaks, please keep him in solitary confinement tonight. No one should contact him. Also, any guards you see tonight must be given a gag order. Kaguya Nami responsibly reminded Wu Wei. Wu Wei readily complied. Just to be safe, he also placed a chakra-binding jutsu on Orochimaru, a red, chain-like curse seal imprinted on Orochimaru's chest. As his hand touched Orochimaru, he felt Orochimaru's skin was cold and stiff, like a layer of necrotic snakeskin. He could faintly hear a rapid heartbeat beneath his chest, and felt a powerful yet unusually weak chakra fluctuation throughout his body. What was actually happening was this: under Mayuri Kuratsuchi's micromanipulation, a heart-shaped aggregate of parasitic worms resonated at a specific frequency, and a simulated human chakra fluctuation pattern was densely distributed within that skin. It turns out that when highly educated intellectuals like Mayuri Kuratsuchi, who understand both science and medicine, set out to fabricate stories, ordinary people are completely blind to their deception and find it hard not to fall for it. Wu Wei didn't suspect anything. He assumed this was the result of Orochimaru being harmed by a forbidden technique and subjected to the inhuman torture inflicted by the 13th Division of the Gotei 13. Look at the state the infamous Orochimaru had been in. Orochimaru's face remained grim throughout, his bloodshot eyes glaring open, his half-open mouth uttering indistinct, desperate sounds. Wu Wei covered Orochimaru's face with a black cloth, gesturing to his trusted aides to drag Orochimaru away. He then said earnestly to Kaguya Nami, "Don't worry, I will keep Orochimaru in solitary confinement in the most secluded and heavily guarded cell of Ozuki Castle. No one will be able to contact him until the people from Konoha arrive tomorrow." "That's good." Kaguya Nami was very satisfied with Wu Wei's arrangement. "There aren't any extra rooms in Ozuki Castle, so I can only offer you a jailer's room for rest. Is that all right?" Wu Wei asked. "That's perfect." Kaguya Nami yawned. Wu Wei had the jailer lead them there, then specifically instructed, "Ozuki Castle is, after all, a prison, with very important areas inside. To prevent any unnecessary trouble, I hope you won't wander around unnecessarily." "Of course, we understand the rules." Kaguya Nami readily agreed, behaving like a considerate guest. In the room the jailer had vacated, Gin Ichimaru smiled as he watched the jailer secretly monitoring him from the doorway. He slowly closed the door from the inside, and the oil lamp hanging in the prison corridor flickered slightly as the door closed a crack. "Captain Gin Ichimaru's mysophobia is a bit severe." Kaguya Nami sat down on a bed covered with an old mattress without any disgust. Mayuri Kuratsuchi stood to the side, tiny insects crawling out from his blackened fingernails and silently slipping out through the crack in the door. He picked up on Nami's words and remarked, "Captain Gin Ichimaru used to be too close to Aizen Sasuke. He probably picked up those bad habits during that time. I, on the other hand, never care about these things. Yes, Captain Mayuri Kuratsuchi is more down to earth." Kaguya Nami smiled. Mayuri Kuratsuchi grinned happily, and at the same time, a sphere mixed with parasites and bacteria floated from his palm. The sphere slowly spread out on the table, like a puddle of water, on which images gradually emerged. "I use the technology to monitor bacteria, parasitizing the Byakugan with parasites, and then use the parasites as a living medium to transmit the images observed by the Byakugan back to the bacteria. Finally, using a tiny bit of spiritual particle technology, I was able to project the images onto this colony from a distance." Mayuri Kuratsuchi humbly pointed to the colony on the table, truly without arrogance. Combining existing technology with new abilities was a piece of cake for him, far inferior to the advanced techniques that President Nami used on the artificial body. Incidentally, that Byakugan is currently hidden inside Orochimaru's stomach. Mayuri Kuratsuchi believed that President Nami could do this kind of trivial technology, and undoubtedly, she could do it better than him. It's just that President Nami was too lazy to put in the effort, which left room for her subordinate to shine. "Very good." Kaguya Nami silently gave Mayuri Kuratsuchi a thumbs up in her heart as she looked at the live feed on the table. In the scene, Orochimaru lies calmly on the operating table after being injected with an anesthetic. Several men wearing bullhead hoods are intensely debating whether to sacrifice him to the box of Elysium. Those opposed argue that there would be no way to properly handle the aftermath and strongly suspect foul play. An obscure organization arresting Orochimaru, passing through Ozuki Castle in the middle of the night, and insisting on staying overnight, it's like offering up a fat sheep, delivered right to their door. It's illogical. Those in favor argue that the gouged-out face is unmistakably Orochimaru's. This is a golden opportunity. Hesitation will only allow them to awaken the box of Elysium and restore the glory of Kusagakure. Furthermore, Because the Gotei 13 are obscure, they can easily shift blame and pin the responsibility on the other side in front of Konoha the next day. In short, this is an opportunity bestowed upon Hazuki Castle by heaven. Sacrificing Orochimaru will likely awaken and open the box of bliss. Then, they can immediately make a wish upon the box of bliss to restore the strength and glory of Kusagakure. As long as they succeed, all problems will be solved. The discussion was still in full swing, while Wu Wei, who was standing to the side, did not participate. He was just silently making preparations for the ceremony. A box that lets people make wishes, and people actually believe it? How interesting. Mayuri Kuratsuchi, who had already received an overview of the box of Elysium from President Nami, looked at the live feed of the colony on the table, still somewhat puzzled, and asked, President Nami, how can you be so sure they will sacrifice Orochimaru? Didn't they already discover something fishy? Kaguya Nami smiled and explained, Captain Ichimaru Jin taught me this principle. People are most easily blinded by emotions when they are most likely to lose their reason. We shouldn't doubt how crazy a group of people immersed in reminiscing about the past can be. The box of Elysium is their last straw, and now that I've personally handed the key to them, even if there's something fishy going on, they'll find more reasons to convince themselves, because they can't bear to give up this opportunity. Besides, I've only given them one night. They don't have time to think things through. The desires ignited by greed will force them to make a decision. Furthermore, the real power to preside and make decisions lies with Wu Wei. A father's longing for his son will drive him to do anything, which is why I ultimately changed the plan and chose him as my frontman. Kaguya Nami closed the deck of cards in her hand, randomly drew one, and said in a deep voice, even if he refuses, it doesn't matter. He missed the olive branch I extended, it's not my fault. As she spoke, Kaguya Nami flipped over the drawn deck of cards, revealing a black joker. She said to Mayuri Kuratsuchi with delight, look, luck is on our side. You all always complain that my updates are slow, and that updating too quickly during the new book period affects recommendations. I also really want to reach the word count as soon as possible. Sigh, I can only carefully select and recommend a book to help you through your reading slump. It's an older book I wrote, a bit more realistic than this one, but the protagonist's behavior and intelligence are similar. If you like this book, you'll likely love the older one too. The beginning is a bit slow, but once you get through it, it's incredibly enjoyable. I'm really not just recommending a book randomly. Of course, votes should still be reserved for the new book. The title is One Piece, The Order of the Mother Nest, and there's a link below. Chapter 34, The Allure of the Mastermind. Are you convinced? The Ghost Lantern Castle, shrouded in night, was quiet and deep. The wall clinging to the cliff face was steep and precipitous, constantly battered by the swirling waves, covered in sticky moss. From a distance, it looked like a monster with ringworm clinging to the edge of the cliff. A flea-like figure was stealthily climbing down. The wall was high, and it took him considerable effort to climb down. Catching his breath, he was about to turn around when he caught a glimpse of a dark shadow flickering beside him. His face paled instantly, and he whirled around. 4 fresh corpses lay in a row on the ground, the sea breeze carrying a faint, warm scent of blood. The 4 bodies had all died in horrific, identical ways. Behind the corpses, a pair of clean straw sandals came into view. Moving his gaze upwards, he saw a long, jet-black robe almost covering the shoes, over which a white feather robe fluttered in the sea breeze. Light purple, tousled hair, narrow, slit eyes, a venomous, hypocritical smile. This was the man he'd seen that night, one of the 13 Gotei 13 escorting Orochimaru. Should he be in the jailer room? What was he doing here? A chill ran down his spine, a series of questions pounding in his head. However, before he could even ask his questions, a cold reply pierced his ears. First, everyone who came down before you asked me the same question. Please, could you at least be a little original? Don't repeat other people's last words before you die. Gin Ichimaru held up an index finger, making a SHH gesture. Second, these sour berries called Hazuki are really disgusting. Gin Ichimaru removed his finger, spitting out a date pit with disgust. The 5th man, awaiting his death, swallowed back the questions that had been nagging at him. He stared in horror at Gin Ichimaru, his tongue trembling as he asked, You killed them all? Why? Why are you here to stop us from spreading news of Hazuki Castle? Who are you? You. Gin Ichimaru sighed helplessly. Such a simple question. His mere presence answered everything. He shouldn't have any expectations of ninja's intelligence, they were just wasting air. Gag order. Gin Ichimaru spared, uttering the 3 words through gritted teeth. Since the Hazuki Castle Lord, Mui, could enforce a gag order on the prison, Chairman Nami had already considered everything and ordered Gin Ichimaru to provide this thoughtful after-sales service. Escorting Orochimaru was like delivering the goods, the murder to silence him was the complimentary after-sales service. Alright, time to get going. Don't waste other people's time. Gin Ichimaru glanced up. Another sinister head was peering down from above Hazuki Castle. He drew his sword and severed the neck of the 5th dead man, quietly awaiting the arrival of the 6th in the night wind. From this day forward, Hazuki Castle, no one is allowed to leave. Meanwhile, deep within the dungeons of Hazuki Castle, the heated and pointless argument abruptly ceased. Wu Wei had completed all the preparations for the ritual. Without pausing, he raised his hand, his 5 fingers pressing against Orochimaru's chest. The chakra flowing from his body immediately activated the cursed seal tattoo on Orochimaru's chest. More powerful than pale words is always decisive action. Discussion was pointless. The sacrificial ritual for the box of Elysium had begun. The sacrifice, Orochimaru. The people around, all wearing bullhead masks, stopped talking and turned their heads in unison, staring intently at the box of Elysium standing in the dark, empty corner. The ghostly door statue seemed to have also smelled the unusual bloodstains, and a dark light shone through the gaps between its closed teeth. On the other end of the live stream, Mayuri Kuratsuchi stared with immense curiosity at the grotesquely revealed box of Elysium, which looked like a hideous, solidified corpse of a hollow. He chuckled, this piece of junk dares to boast that it can grant anyone's every wish? An inanimate object wouldn't say that. These kinds of rumors are usually attributes added later by ignorant people. Rather than saying it has that ability, it's more accurate to say that later generations hoped it had it. Kaguya saw the shadow shrine appear in her hand, and the thin illusion covering its surface was gradually reshaping itself to resemble the original box of Elysium. Whether the box of Elysium truly has that ability is unimportant. What's important is that those I have chosen believe it without question. After all, now, besides the person who originally created the box of Elysium, who else truly understands its function? The Shadow Shrine, already bearing a 60% resemblance, quickly took on a new form in Kaguya Nami's hands, looking like a scaled-down version of the box of Elysium held firmly in her palm. So, who created this thing? Mayuri Kuratsuchi's thirst for knowledge was strong. He had a powerful desire to explore and modify this novel ninja world. Kaguya Nami examined the shadow shrine in her hand, making final, subtle adjustments to ensure it looked exactly like the box of Elysium. In the distant, unknowable history, some truths are always buried. The box of Elysium might be an artifact of the Sage of Six Paths, or perhaps its history is even longer. However, I now believe it was created by me. Mayuri Kuratsuchi was taken aback. In terms of script writing ability, he was far inferior to Gin Ichimaru. If it were Gin Ichimaru, he would probably have already shared the same thought with President Nami 2 minutes earlier and offered the most appropriate praise. Nami Kaguya stopped there, watching the live stream of the bacterial colony. She gently raised the box of Elysium in her hand and murmured, "Alright, it's our turn to step in." Mayuri Kuratsuchi scratched his head, his heart itching like a kitten's. He wiped his hand on the table, retracting the spreading bacteria and parasites back into his body. Then he pushed open the door and led the way for President Nami. The prison guards monitoring the corridor had already fallen unconscious, their faces and lips cyanotic, clearly poisoned by a neurotoxin. Inconspicuous spots on the back of their necks, several insects flew out and burrowed back into Mayuri Kuratsuchi as he passed by. Mayuri Kuratsuchi walked quickly, eager to see what would happen next. Feeling President Nami's unhurried pace following behind, Mayuri Kuratsuchi's heart inexplicably pounded. President Nami's technical skills already commanded his respect. Now, this enigmatic and awe-inspiring mastermind was also captivating. This is far more charming than the former Soul King. Mayuri Kuratsuchi was completely captivated by the charm displayed by President Nami. P.S. I'm totally won over. Please vote for me. If you are listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means it was downloaded and re-uploaded without effort. We warmly invite you to visit our channel, Fanfic World. There you will find the original version of this story and many other novels of various genres. We look forward to seeing you dive into a world of incredible novels. Chapter 35: A shocking turn of events. We were invited. The air was silent, save for the involuntary swallowing sounds of Orochimaru's Adam's apple bobbing and the frantic, resonant pounding of his heart within his skin. The rustling grew increasingly rapid and shrill. The sound seemed to penetrate his muscles and skin, and visibly, Orochimaru's chest bulged outwards, as if his beating heart, stimulated by some unseen force, was struggling wildly to burst forth, even attempting to rip his chest open from the inside. The cursed chains binding his body twisted and deformed, seemingly unable to withstand this frantic struggle, before shattering piece by piece. Failed? What happened? Gasps of shock and disbelief came from the nearby bull-headed hood. In their hundreds of previous sacrificial rituals, they had never encountered anything like this, and they were all dumbfounded and at a loss. As expected of Orochimaru, even tortured to such an extent, and in a deep coma, he could still resist the sacrifice with such ruthless methods, almost like disemboweling himself. Silently, everyone mentally filled in possible explanations, their breathing becoming increasingly agitated. The more fiercely you resist, the more likely you are to satisfy the appetite of the box of bliss, right? They urged Wu Wei-an, an unhealthy flush appearing on his face. All his chakra poured into Orochimaru's body like water being poured over his bare, beating heart. Boom! His bulging chest burst open, and a black beam of light shot out, curving through the air before hurtling towards the ugly, demonic face of the box of bliss. Success. Can the box of bliss be opened? Wait, that black beam of light isn't chakra, it looks like a bunch of insects flying together. Amidst gasps of horror, a group of incredulous gazes rushed to Orochimaru's corpse. They then saw that where there was flesh inside his ripped chest, it was filled with a jelly-like material. The white jelly was covered with countless tiny holes, from which swarms of black insects crawled in and out, forming a network of black veins covering his entire body. Orochimaru? Forbidden technique backlash? Something seemed to shatter in their minds, their entire heads throbbing with pain. They seemed to have been collectively fooled, mistaking a rubber doll for a real person. But it was so incredibly realistic. Orochimaru was fake. The 13 Gotei 13 had deceived them. Then, who were they? A chill ran up from the soles of their feet, like a cold, sticky venomous snake crawling up their spine. Wherever it passed, their pores trembled and contracted into uneven goosebumps. The fear shrouded in an unknown conspiracy made them feel as if they had fallen into an ice cave. Wu Wei stared wide-eyed at Orochimaru's corpse, his hopes dashed, unable to accept the fall. His face was contorted with pain. There's someone there. Suddenly, a bull-headed figure pointed wide-eyed at the location of the box of Elysium. There, just as they were looking down at the truth about the rubber doll, the silhouette of a figure quietly appeared, blocking the demon's face in the box of Elysium. The figure was bent over at a 90-degree angle, its face almost pressed against the demon's teeth, carefully observing and making tisk-tisk-tisk sounds. Then, he turned around, revealing a black and white mask. His mouth stretched into an exaggerated grin, revealing impeccably white teeth. The black beams of light that had been shooting towards the box of Elysium in mid-air suddenly stopped, obediently descending in unison to land on his black robe, creeping and seeping into his body through his exposed skin. What are you going to do to my little darlings that I've worked so hard to raise? Are you going to feed them to the ugly thing behind me? Mayuri Kuratsuchi bared his teeth, looking extremely angry. He reached behind him and flung his purplish-red Zanpakuto out of his sleeve, grabbing it casually and slashing it at the box of Elysium's face. Sparks flew, leaving a scar on the ugly face. What are you doing? Stop! The members of the bull-headed gang screamed in horror. One of them, with the loudest scream and the fastest reaction, leaped forward, stepping on Orochimaru's corpse and soaring high into the air. Two chain-like scythes flew out from under his clothes, spinning as they slashed towards Mayuri's neck. Too noisy, make him quiet. A cold, eerie voice came from above the box of bliss. Only then did the group stiffly shift their gaze from Mayuri upwards, and see a figure sitting lazily atop the tall demon face of the box of bliss, his legs dangling in the air, mud and dust from his shoes brushing against the demon face's forehead. The man, dressed in the same black robe and hori, propped one hand on the demon's head while tossing a spinning object, about the size of a palm, its shape indistinct, up and down with the other. He tossed it up and caught it repeatedly, his posture as relaxed and languid as if watching a play from a sofa. A pale white mask covered his face, and a single blood-red teardrop beneath his eye added a touch of sinister allure to his languid demeanor, drawing all eyes involuntarily. A faint, Inexplicable aura of danger emanated from him. Yes, Master Nami. Mayuri Kuratsuchi immediately dropped his playful expression, his gaze turning coldly to the falling scythe. The bull-headed figure beneath the mask was still shouting and yelling. He lightly touched the ground with his foot, rising into the air and landing on the scythe's chain. The chains trembled, a blur of motion flashing past as Mayuri Kuratsuchi descended from the bull-hooded man's head. Reaching into his ear, he pulled a slender scythe, hooked it slightly forward, and seized the bull-hooded man's throat. A sharp cracking sound echoed as the cartilage and muscles of his Adam's apple were torn apart. Blood splattered, staining the bull-hooded man's face crimson. He clutched his throat and collapsed to the ground, only a faint, gurgling sound escaping his lips. In an instant, one bull-hooded man was killed. The remaining few, hidden within the bull-hooded figures, held their breath, sensing immense danger. The hairs on their backs stood on end, their bloodshot eyes fixed intently on what lay before them. "Who are you? What do you want?" one of the bull-hooded figures asked in a low, gritted-teeth voice, utterly devoid of any originality. "I think we already introduced ourselves last night. You shouldn't have forgotten us so quickly." Kaguya Nami sat atop the box of Elysium, looking down at them from above. "What I mean is, what exactly are you trying to do by going to such lengths to infiltrate Hazuki Castle?" As she asked the question, the several bull-headed figures exchanged a subtle glance, their formation quietly spreading out, subtly forming an encirclement around the two members of the Gotei 13. "You need to choose your words carefully. We entered through the main gate openly and honestly, and it wasn't that we wanted to come here. It was because you invited us time and time again that we accepted." Kaguya Nami corrected. "What? We invited you? We've never even heard of the Gotei 13, so how could we possibly invite you?" The bull-headed figures looked at each other in disbelief. If this person wasn't lying, then there was a traitor among them. "Yes, isn't it you who have been calling for our arrival day and night, day after day?" Kaguya Nami stopped her small tossing motion, a strange smile flashing in her eyes, and earnestly reminded them, "Think about it carefully again." As she spoke, the bull-headed figure on the ground, clutching its throat, stopped struggling, and a dim black light floated out from its corpse, drifting uncontrollably towards the top of the box of Elysium's head. Chapter 36 Kaguya Nami's script. Reason told them they shouldn't listen to Kaguya Nami's nonsense anymore, but the eerie seriousness in her tone had a strange, seductive power that made them unconsciously prick up their ears to listen. The corpses of their companions on the ground stopped struggling, and a dark, ghostly light floated from their surfaces, slowly drifting towards the location of the box of Elysium. Everything looked like an evil ritual of sacrifice to the box of Elysium was underway. But, a sacrificial ritual requires Wu Wei to preside over and guide it. And Wu Wei was clearly doing nothing at this moment, he was just staring blankly at the man above the box of Elysium's head. The bull-headed men were stunned. Today's script was too bizarre. Their brains were somewhat frozen, and they could only subconsciously follow the ghostly light with their eyes, all the way to the box of Elysium's closed teeth, the scars from the sharp blade, the forehead covered in shoe-sole dust, and all the way up to the open palm of the man who claimed to be one of the invited members of the Gotei 13. A box the size of a palm lay quietly, and an eerie light drifted uncontrollably into it. In that instant, they seemed to suddenly hear the screams of Kaguya Nami, accompanied by some kind of chewing and swallowing sound. The light and the sound were devoured by the box. Kaguya Nami was the name of the corpse of their companion on the ground. They didn't even have time to feel a sense of shared grief before their hearts were filled with an inexplicable sense of familiarity. It was too much like a sacrifice to the box of Elysium, except that the sacrificed person had changed from a prisoner to Kaguya Nami, and the target of the sacrifice had changed from the box of Elysium to the box in Kaguya Nami's hands. That box, and the box of Elysium. From the beginning, his expression had been slightly dazed. His eyes were fixed on Kaguya Nami, and his face was twisted and ferocious. Wu Wei opened his mouth, his throat seemingly stuck with shock, and he uttered hoarsely, "Exactly the same." Wu Wei finally remembered where the strangely familiar aura on the 13th guardian of the Gotei 13 came from. Wasn't it strangely similar to the scent of the box of bliss he had spent so much time with? That almost identical aura, so similar in origin, he hadn't immediately connected the two when they first met that evening. Was it because the connection was too terrifying, so much so that his subconscious had automatically blocked the thought? How could a person possibly share the same aura as such a terrifying and evil entity as the box of bliss? In fact, the aura seemed even stronger. Wu Wei's breathing quickened. Was it a sensory illusion, or had an inconceivable thought suddenly surfaced in his mind, a thought that made his heart skip a beat, then clung to him like a persistent, insidious wound? No, that was impossible. But what if it really was? He had just said that we had been calling for their arrival day and night, year after year. This sounded like nonsense at first, but if you applied that to the box of bliss, didn't everything barely make sense? We were indeed yearning to open and awaken the box of bliss, day and night. Moreover, he held a miniature version of the box of bliss in his hand. You were summoned from the box of bliss? Wu Wei's voice was hoarse. This was the limit of his imagination. Legend has it that the box of bliss seals a door, behind which lies another dimension where unspeakable monsters slumber. Through some evil ritual, the box of bliss can be opened, awakening the sleeping monsters and granting them a wish. The truth behind the door is unknown, but the Grass Ninja Village has always believed that opening the box of bliss grants a wish, and Wu Wei's family has passed down this evil ritual for generations. His family was known in Kusagakure as the gatekeepers of the box of bliss. Naturally, Wu Wei had heard this legend since birth, and his belief in the box of bliss surpassed that of everyone else. When his children were sacrificed to the box of bliss, Wu Wei could no longer harbor any doubts. His belief in the legend of the box of bliss was ingrained in the deepest recesses of his soul. This was the sole meaning of his existence. And now, the legend seemed to be barging into his world in another form, arrogantly and unreasonably. So, has the gate been opened? To whom should I make a wish? The two members of the Gotei 13 were stunned, dumbfounded by Wu Wei's mad ramblings. Their brains weren't fried. How could they possibly believe such an absurd explanation, even if Wu Wei spoke it as a question? What was even more unbelievable was that upon hearing this, both members of the Gotei 13 simultaneously revealed a sinister smile. Mayuri Kuratsuchi grinned excitedly. He had finally grasped the gist of the play. This drama, directed and acted by Chairman Nami, was truly brilliant and entertaining. If the manipulation of human nature were a science, then Chairman Nami's expertise in this field was clearly profound. Mayuri stared intently at Wu Wei, having no doubt that from the moment the warden uttered those words, he would be forever under Chairman Nami's control. In fact, that line was already in the chairman's script. Wu Wei was simply being guided step by step within this meticulously crafted script, uttering the line that Chairman Nami had secretly given him at just the right moment. From the moment he stepped into Hazuki Castle, the manipulation of Wu Wei had begun. Even earlier, from the moment Chairman Nami disembarked, the entire play had been arranged. Ultimately, Wu Wei would willingly offer his neck to the collar thrown by the chairman. Kaguya Nami's eyes gleamed with undisguised amusement, seemingly quite pleased with Wu Wei's apparent understanding. She said with a half-smile, "Your understanding isn't entirely wrong, but the slight deviation is that this thing is nothing more than an ugly object. What right does it have to make decisions for us, or summon us? The box of Elysium is just an object? What's with this condescending attitude?" The bull-headed clan was stunned by the information inadvertently revealed in Kaguya Nami's words. It's just a defective piece forged by the Gotei 13 in their early days, a broken thing used to seal a corner of Hueco Mundo. Later, they found it too cumbersome and replaced it, discarding it. I don't know how it ended up in your hands, where you treat it like a treasure, giving it a ridiculous name, the box of Elysium. Do you even know what the corner of Hueco Mundo connected to this thing truly represents? Kaguya Nami said with a cold laugh. The tone was sarcastic and mocking, but the content unmistakably revealed a shocking truth. The box of Elysium was crafted by the Gotei 13, and it was merely a defective product. The group with the bull's head had stared at Kaguya Nami as if she were a madwoman. They didn't believe a single word she said. The box of Elysium had a long history. If it truly involved an organization with a long history, how could it remain unknown? The conclusion was that the Gotei 13 never existed in history, the person before them was a complete fabrication, and the strange term Hueco Mundo was undoubtedly a lie she had concocted. So you said you came because you heard our call? Wu Wei pressed, his words revealing that he largely believed Kaguya Nami's story. That's a polite and euphemistic way of putting it. Kaguya Nami stood up, rubbing her foot hard against the top of the box of Elysium's head, and sneered, "This piece of junk may be lost, but its coordinates are still connected to the Seireitei. Every time you feed it food into Hueco Mundo, it sends an alarm to the Seireitei. Although nothing serious really happens, after all, the real Hueco Mundo was long ago transferred and sealed, What's still connected to this gate is just a remnant of Hueco Mundo. But hearing noise from afar every day is still quite disturbing. Wu Wei's heart skipped a beat. He couldn't accept such a cruel statement. So the legend is false, including that wish? The air fell silent, eerily still. Wu Wei gritted his teeth, waiting for the other party's answer. Several skeptical bull-headed figures also listened in tacitly. Disbelief or not, listening couldn't hurt. They were also curious about how the other party would continue to fabricate such a colossal lie. What concerned them even more was how to explain the small box of bliss that the other party was holding if they didn't believe him. Ninjas are indeed greedy and foolish creatures. After all I've said, you're still delusional about the false legend that opening a door grants a wish? Just use your brains a little, and you'll know that's impossible. Kaguya Nami seemed amused. He casually tossed a miniature box of bliss into the air, tracing a beautiful parabola. Wu Wei instinctively reached out and caught the box of bliss with both hands, his movements extremely careful and gentle, as if afraid of accidentally scratching its surface with his fingernails. If the box of ecstasy you speak of can grant wishes, then go ahead and make a wish upon it. The one in your hand isn't this clumsy, defective piece like the one under your feet. Don't worry, this one just finished charging. In your understanding, that means, the door is open. Make your wish. Kaguya Nami, seemingly purely to satisfy her own perverse pleasure, casually tossed the precious box of ecstasy to Wu Wei, at least that's how it appeared to others. This seemingly absurd act actually strengthened the persuasiveness of her words, at least, the expressions behind several bull-headed masks had shifted from complete disbelief to suspicion. Make a wish, upon the box of ecstasy. Wu Wei's hands trembled as he carefully examined the box of ecstasy in his hands. The lifelike patterns and the sinister, eerie aura it exuded were exactly the same as the real box of ecstasy. In fact, the craftsmanship and the weight of its aura were even superior. Most importantly, Xiachen Gotei had indeed had all his life force and chakra devoured by this box of bliss, right before their eyes, without even the need for a ritual. Wu Wei felt a breath exhaled from the box of bliss, through every pore of his body. Yes, unlike the huge inanimate object they possessed, he felt that the one in his hand was a living thing that had already awakened. Defective product. Genuine product. Alive. Several words popped intermittently into Wu Wei's mind, concepts that Kaguya Nami had just instilled in him. Combining them with his current feelings, he had to realize a truth: the Gotei 13 were not deceiving him. The bull-headed figures around him involuntarily moved closer to Wu Wei, their eyes greedy, intense, and eagerly fixed on the box of bliss. Tell me, did they believe it or not? You can make your wish now. What are you waiting for? Oh, right, you guys named it a box of bliss. Its real name is actually the Shadow Shrine, an urn made from the corpse of a hollow. Kaguya Nami explained while urging him on, a joker card spinning automatically on her index finger. Wu Wei's throat was dry, his tongue was tied, and his mouth opened and closed several times. He was terrified that once he made this wish, the last shred of hope and illusion that sustained him would be completely shattered. Wu Wei, what are you waiting for? Make your wish now. Let the grass ninja village be restored to its former glory. A man with a bull's head excitedly reached out to grab it, but Wu Wei's face instantly turned ruthless. He protected the shadow shrine with one hand and covered the man's chest with the other. The chains of the chakra binding technique instantly wrapped around the man's body. He grinned maliciously and slashed the man's throat with his 5 fingers together like a knife. Even if he didn't make a wish, he wouldn't allow anyone to defile this one and only right to make a wish. The corpse fell heavily to the ground, its eyes wide open in death, never expecting Wu Wei to suddenly strike. The bull-headed guards who had gathered were startled and quickly distanced themselves, watching Wu Wei with extreme vigilance. Wu Wei had gone mad. Completely oblivious to the death of his companion, Wu Wei stared unblinkingly at the corpse, and once again saw a wisp of eerie light emerge from it, only to be chewed and devoured by the living creature in his hand. The release of the Shadow Shrine could only be operated by Kaguya Nami, but charging was unnecessary. It was an automatic, instinctive urge. If last time Wu Wei was merely an observer, this time, he believed he had orchestrated a successful sacrifice, and the last trace of doubt in his heart was completely dispelled. The Shadow Shrine was real. The 13 Gotei 13 were real. But the wish was fake. No, the wish had to be real. Wu Wei's expression shifted unpredictably, his eyes bloodshot and filled with despair. He gasped for breath as he walked forward step by step until he reached the box of bliss. He looked up at Kaguya Nami, who stood atop the demon's face, as if trying to imprint that pale white mask, stained with blood and tears, into his own pupils. He slowly raised his hands above his head, as if praying to a supreme deity. He knelt inch by inch on the ground, as if pleading desperately with a demon lurking in the abyss. Blood welled in his wide-open eyes, his forehead pressed against the cold ground, only his hands still held high, his voice hoarse to the extreme. If the box of bliss cannot grant my wish, then, as its creator, will you be able to hear my wish? His anxious breath filled the air. A playing card, a joker, pierced the ground like a blade, pressing against Wu Wei's forehead. On the demonic face of the box of Elysium, Kaguya Nami slowly crouched down, reached out to pick up the shadow shrine, and gently tossed it into the sky. The shrine vanished into thin air. Making a wish to death, do you know what you have to pay? Burning paper money on the old tree at the grave. Throwing tantrums and jumping into the crematorium, begging you gentlemen to give me a bite to eat. Chapter 37 We are death gods. A deep, gentle murmur entered Wu Wei's mind, showering his despairing world with a sweet rain of hope. Beside him, Mayuri clutched his stomach, bent over, and laughed wildly. The sharp, terrifying laughter echoed, like poisonous needles piercing the eardrums of the bull-headed guards. What is Wu Wei doing? He's gone mad. Several members of the bull-headed guards turned to flee. Everything that had happened tonight was too bizarre and terrifying, even the warden had gone insane. They felt as if they had fallen into an ice cave, every cell in their bodies trembling and groaning. Escape. Leave this place. Leave this prison. Take the news back to Kusagakure. A few others stood frozen in place, seemingly still unable to process what had happened. Their eyes were still fixed on the kneeling Wu Wei, when out of the corner of their eye they caught sight of the man laughing maniacally beside them. Suddenly, he straightened up, dragging a blood-red blade at his feet, the blade strangely dissolving and deforming. You can't leave. The curtain hasn't fallen yet. How can the actors and audience leave prematurely? President Nami will be unhappy. The incessant chatter sounded like the Grim Reaper's chant before taking lives. The group of bull-headed figures turned around in horror, only to see a strange golden blade pierce their eyes. The blade was split into three, thin and winding, like three centipede limbs connected to the hilt. The hilt itself was even more deformed and twisted, resembling the face of an infant, indescribably grotesque and eerie. A blade with centipede limbs growing from an infant's head. Open your claws, Ashisaji Jizo. Mayuri Kuratsuchi grinned, chuckling as he chased after them. He swung the blade horizontally, creating three ripples in the air, truly like three writhing centipedes, aiming to bite the back of their heads and necks. One of them drew his kunai and turned to block, but was immediately caught by Ashisaji Jizo's claws. Mayuri Kuratsuchi flicked his wrist upwards, sending the kunai flying. The three-section blade slid across the man's arm at a tricky angle, leaving three gruesome bloody cuts. The others, showing some loyalty, turned to help, or perhaps sensing they wouldn't escape if they were alone, they all swarmed Mayuri Kuratsuchi. Unfortunately, their coordination was chaotic and disorganized, and Mayuri saw fatal flaws everywhere. Mayuri Kuratsuchi chuckled and spun around in place, his body contorting inhumanly to dodge. At the same time, his body suddenly cracked open with gashes, like a weapon case being opened, and a swarm of parasitic insects and bacteria roared out, covering the heads of the others. The bull's head mask was gnawed open by parasitic worms, revealing a bloodied and mangled face beneath. Bacteria wriggled into the face, multiplying and spreading to the brain and spinal nerve areas. Several people immediately rolled their eyes back and convulsed. The first person cut by the blade quickly formed hand seals, opening his mouth to unleash a ball of fire towards Mayuri Kuratsuchi's head. Mayuri Kuratsuchi turned his head to the side, stabbing the other man's abdomen with a backhand thrust. The Jizo sword bit into the flesh inside, and the infant face on the hilt of the sword opened its mouth, emitting a silent cry that instantly entered the other man's body and soul. He felt as if his brain and limbs had been ripped apart, his chakra frozen. And the flames about to erupt from his head exploded uncontrollably, blasting his entire head to smithereens, blood spurting from his severed neck. Red and white splattered all over Mayuri Kuratsuchi's face. He casually wiped his face, and the red, white, and black mask turned back to look at the remaining disfigured people. They were already paralyzed by fear and anxiety, standing stiffly in place. I'm really sorry, it's been too long since I've used violence. I was excited after only recently awakening and didn't hold back, accidentally killing one of the audience members. I underestimated the physical strength of ninjas. They're practically made of paper. Mayuri Kuratsuchi thought for a moment, then released his Zanpakudo from its shike state. He then gently stroked the faces of the disfigured people with his blood-splattered hands, slowly turning their necks to ensure their gazes were all directed towards Chairman Nami. A proper ending, that was where the drama was about to end. As for the remaining few with bull-headed masks who hadn't escaped, Mayuri Kuratsuchi ignored them. He wasn't like Gin Ichimaru, that germaphobe who was always thinking about purifying the air. He just had a slight case of OCD, but he never killed indiscriminately without reason. At the center of the stage, under Mayuri Kuratsuchi's powerful control, all eyes were focused on one spot. This truly tickled Kaguya Nami's heartstrings. What director wouldn't want their meticulously crafted work to be viewed by those who appreciate beauty? This was the greatest affirmation and respect for their artistic value. A slight smile played on Kaguya Nami's lips behind her mask as she crouched down, her gaze softening as she looked at Wu Wei. I'm willing to give everything, all of it, as long as my wish is fulfilled. Wu Wei suddenly looked up, his gaze burning as he looked up at Kaguya Nami, his voice trembling. My wish, can you grant it? Everything? I like your answer. Kaguya Nami's interest was piqued. Then I'll listen to your wish for now. I wish, Wu Wei took a deep breath, to resurrect my son. Is that possible? Silence. A deathly, oppressive silence. Just as the light in Wu Wei's eyes dimmed to the point of despair. A sneaker broke the silence. Kaguya Nami habitually rubbed the tears on her mask with her fingers, replying calmly, the Gotei 13 aren't omnipotent, but you're lucky. Controlling death is indeed within the realm of Shinigami's abilities. Shinigami? A glint rekindled in Wu Wei's eyes. This was the second time he'd heard that term from Kaguya Nami. The first time, he'd thought it was a nickname she'd given him, but now it seemed to mean something else entirely. You didn't always think we were ninjas, did you? Wrong. We're not even human. We're Shinigami who walk the mortal world using artificial bodies. Kaguya Nami reached out towards the corpse with its shattered head, instantly drawing the floating eerie light into her palm. Shinigami. Wu Wei repeated the term, his eyes growing ever brighter. The Gotei 13 are the highest organization under the Shinigami, and they haven't been active in the mortal world for thousands of years. Humanity's short-lived memory seems to have forgotten us. This is detrimental to the stability of the mortal world. This is not good. Kaguya Nami stepped forward and stood before Wu Wei, her voice calm and even. I've come for this reason. To reawaken the entire ninja world's memory of the Gotei 13 and help all humanity rebuild a stable order. Do you understand what I mean? Wu Wei swallowed hard, feeling as if he had been drawn into a massive vortex. But he had no way out and no other choice. He nodded heavily and said, I understand. I'm willing to do anything to revive my son. Your great fatherly love has moved me. I will fulfill your wish. Kaguya Nami extended a finger and gently pressed it against his brow, promising, when my purpose is achieved, your wish will also be fulfilled. I believe that day is not far off. Wu Wei had no right to bargain. This was destined to be an unequal transaction. But Wu Wei chose to agree, and could only believe from the bottom of his heart that this promise would be fulfilled. Chapter 38 Savior of the Ninja World. Wu Wei, are you crazy? You actually believe this? He's lying to you. His face was a bloody mess, rotting flesh riddled with decaying bacteria, making him look grotesque and hideous. The numbing neurotoxins rendered him immobile, but he still stubbornly controlled his mouth and tongue, screaming hysterically at Wu Wei. I revealed so many secrets hoping to gain your trust, and yet you still slander me without cause. This is wrong. Show me the evidence that I'm lying. Kaguya Nami wasn't one for violence, that was too low class. A good script required presenting facts, reasoning, and using thought to influence others, that truly showcased a director's skill and cultivation. I can shut him up. Wu Wei got up from the ground, bowing his head and standing behind Kaguya Nami. His personality traits strongly reflect the obsessive nature characteristic of ninjas. This is evident from his initial sacrifice of his son to the box of paradise, and his subsequent desperate attempt to resurrect him. Obsession runs throughout his tragic fate. This is actually a character trait that can create great tension, especially when he encounters a seasoned director. No need, let him speak. Truth becomes clearer through debate. Kaguya Nami was very magnanimous, calming the restless killing intent within Wu Wei. The man's eyes widened in fury, his foolish obsession and cold-blooded ruthlessness collapsing as his emotions spiraled out of control. He howled, "Why should I prove anything? You should be the one proving what you're saying is true." Do I need to prove what I'm saying? Kaguya Nami's deep gaze swept over the man, looking towards the corridor behind him, and she smiled. "Isn't the box of Elysium, which you treasure so much, proof of what I'm saying? No, although I don't know how you did it, what you're saying is definitely a lie." The man argued illogically. "Didn't you say the box of Elysium seal Hueco Mundo? Unless you can let me see Hueco Mundo with my own eyes, you're lying." Kaguya Nami seemed stumped. She helplessly spread her hands. "As you say, I really can't let you see Hueco Mundo. To drag the entire ninja world into a dangerous abyss just to prove a truth, I really can't agree to that. You really are lying." The man laughed maniacally, spitting out corroded flesh, bacteria, and saliva. He opened his mouth, ready to expose Kaguya Nami's lies, when a chilling sensation suddenly pierced his muscles and bones, followed by excruciating pain. He desperately looked down, his stiff eyes fixed on a blade, a gleaming silver hilt, piercing his chest. Someone had stabbed him in the chest from behind with a hilt. Why not a sharp blade, but a rough hilt? This was his second-to-last thought before death. "No, President Nami never lies. I can prove that. As for your desire to witness the truth of Hueco Mundo firsthand, it's not entirely impossible. I happen to have a compromise here, you can experience it for yourself." A venomous, cold, mocking voice burrowed into his mind. With that voice, he felt as if his entire body had lost its weight, floating up. Then, he saw a chain broken by a hilt. One end of the chain was his own corpse, his disfigured and ugly face being eroded and spread by a lifeless white substance. The other end of the chain was his last thought before death. Who is it? Gin Ichimaru pulled out his sword hilt, knelt down to wipe the blood off the corpse's clothes, and then slowly stood up, smiling at Nami Kaguya with narrowed eyes. "The guildmaster is too merciful. Although we can't let him see Hueco Mundo directly, let him become a hollow directly. It's all the same to him." Mayuri Kuratsuchi, standing to the side, pulled at her hair in frustration. It was all her fault for not being skilled enough, otherwise, she wouldn't have needed Gin Ichimaru to come back and play along. Sigh, it's just a little too cruel. Nami Kaguya looked at the hollow gradually forming above the corpse with pity, while inwardly calculating. Gin Ichimaru had just revealed to everyone that Shinigami possessed the ability to create hollows. Would this damage the Seireitei's positive image? Perhaps she should try to salvage the situation? Wu Wei stared at the black shadow that was slowly twisting and deforming above the corpse. Even though it wasn't fully formed, a chilling, evil, and brutal aura already permeated the air. It wasn't human anymore, it was a monster that fed on humans. This was a hollow? Wu Wei's mouth gaped open, and the expressions of the remaining survivors were roughly the same. They stared in stunned disbelief at the hollow that was clinging to their corpses, frantically devouring their former selves, and rapidly deforming into its current form. For a moment, they couldn't accept it. Their fixed worldview and original understanding collapsed in an instant, just like the corpse itself, turning into a mangled mess. A hollow, it was a human. The Grim Reaper had turned humans into hollows. So, the Grim Reaper is. Humans always need a bit of bloodshed to stimulate them to accept what is cruel to them. I don't want the ninja world to recall the memories of the Gotei 13 with too much bloodshed, so I need to select some people to help me reduce unnecessary losses in this process. Kaguya Nami spoke slowly, drawing everyone's attention back. After all, I have good intentions towards the ninja world. I am a kind Grim Reaper. Ichimaru Jin. Kuratsuchi Mayuri. The other living people. This time, no one refuted Kaguya Nami, they all tacitly accepted this fact. Now, you are all willing to believe what I say, right? Kaguya Nami looked around and grinned. I know you still have many doubts in your hearts, but it's okay. Slowly, you will all understand that what I said is the truth. Kuratsuchi Mayuri reached out and collected the parasitic insects and bacteria. Several people with half-disfigured faces knelt on the ground, drenched in cold sweat. The remaining few with evil masks also took off their masks and knelt on one knee, knowing better than to do so. Why should the ninja world remember the 13 Gotei 13? Kaguya Nami asked herself, answering her own question. I know you all have this question but dare not ask. To prevent you from mistakenly believing the 13 Gotei 13 to be an evil organization, I will tell you the answer now. This is because a greater terror is about to sweep across the entire world. We hope that when that day truly arrives, the ninja world will be psychologically prepared and deeply aware of who they should turn to for help. The 13 Gotei 13 could never be an evil organization. On the contrary, we are the only saviors of the ninja world. Kaguya Nami confidently stated her conclusion in advance. No one questioned it. Utter silence. P.S. Will this conclusion, some distant day, truly be proven true? Chapter 39. Did I become rich overnight? The hollow born from the mangled corpse gradually solidified and filled out, its corrosive white covering his ugly face. A white mask grew from the flesh, and the hollow roared menacingly. He looks like he's in pain. Purify him. Kaguya Nami sighed. Swoosh. A flash of light. The mask was pierced, and the ugly body shattered inch by inch, turning into black mist that slowly drifted towards Kaguya Nami, entering her naturally drooping palm and being swallowed by the shadow shrine in her inventory. At least he died with the truth. Gin Ichimaru sheathed his sword and bowed to the merciful Nami-sama. Kaguya Nami glanced around at the prison guards who had been fortunate enough to witness the truth and were still alive, and said with a slight troubled expression, "You see, not everyone has the courage to face the cruel truth directly. I think, until I help the ninja world prepare, you should keep the secret for me for now, okay?" The silent agreement was tacit consent. But this time, the tacit consent did not seem to satisfy Kaguya Nami. "They are not trustworthy," Wu Wei suddenly blurted out. He had fully embraced his new role, wholeheartedly dedicating himself to the savior of the ninja world's cause, sharing his burdens and relieving his worries. Having managed prisons for so many years, I've come to a profound realization: most people will only keep your secrets when they're dead. The dying guards were terrified. One of them had indeed become a traitor, and a ruthless one at that. Kaguya remained silent, seemingly both tempted and conflicted, which made the dying guards afraid to even breathe. If it's just about preventing them from leaking secrets, I have a very good method. Mayuri Kuratsuchi first glanced at the silent Gin Ichimaru before slowly grinning and sticking out his tongue, his voice muffled. The original pattern on this prosthetic body's tongue, although now ineffective, I reverse-engineered its principles and functions out of curiosity. I can replicate it to make similar little things to ensure they can keep their mouths shut. The seal of the root of tongue calamity. Kaguya Nami's mind flashed with irrelevant terminology. This was a sealing technique used exclusively by Konoha's Ambu root, a method Shimura Danzo used to control his subordinates. Anyone whose tongue was marked with this seal would have their tongue instantly paralyzed and their entire body stiff and unable to move if they even had the thought of revealing his secrets. Very good, your wisdom saved their lives. Then, I'll trouble Captain Mayuri to give them an extra layer of insurance, so that both of us can feel more at ease. Kaguya Nami said with a smile. Mayuri Kuratsuchi glanced smugly at Gin Ichimaru, who maintained his hypocritical smile. He walked up to the jailers, roughly pulled out their tongues, and then used his sharp fingernails to carve a baby's face pattern on their tongues. At the same time, bacteria from his fingernails seeped into the baby's face, taking root and parasitizing the base of their tongues. This was Mayuri Kuratsuchi's modified version of the tongue root calamity seal. Still feeling it wasn't safe enough, Mayuri Kuratsuchi thought for a moment, then pulled a slender scythe from his ear and performed a minimally invasive implantation surgery on the guard's chest, planting a tiny spiritual bomb the size of a fingernail into his heart. Well, done. If you want to expose Chairman Nami's secret, you'll be paralyzed. If you go even further and have thoughts of betrayal, you'll explode like fireworks. Mayuri Kuratsuchi would ceremoniously repeat these words after each guard's surgery, leaving each saved guard unsure whether to thank him for saving their lives. Wu Wei volunteered to have the same surgery, and Kaguya Nami had no reason to refuse his perfectly reasonable request. Once everyone was ensured and obediently lined up before Kaguya Nami to report, he sincerely reassured them, "Don't worry, just think of it as a tumor on your heart. It's nothing serious. Once we've gained mutual trust and understanding, I'll have Mayuri Kuratsuchi remove it for you all." The row of jailers trembled and nodded vigorously. "You will continue to obey Wu Wei's arrangements and assist in the normal operation of Azuki Castle. Maintain the status quo externally, but internally, from today onwards, Hazuki Castle will only allow entry, not exit." Kaguya Nami made the arrangements. The Hazuki Castle management team indicated that they would strictly obey the chairman's instructions. Choose a suitable person from among you to go to Kusagakure and invite the high-ranking officials of Kusagakure to Hazuki Castle to discuss secret matters. The reason will be, Kaguya Nami lightly tapped her mask with her index finger, that the box of bliss has been opened, and you're inviting them to witness the wishing ceremony. Do you think Kusagakure will come? Kaguya Nami asked quietly. Wu Wei and the group of jailers exchanged glances, replying in unison, they will definitely come. Beneath the mask, a smirk played on his lips. What began as a low, restrained laugh gradually grew louder, becoming wild and unrestrained, tearing through the quiet night and echoing throughout the entire Hazuki castle. A series of prompts appeared, rippling across Kaguya Nami's retina. You have achieved the achievement, the shadow that pervades Hazuki Castle. The shadow that pervades Hazuki Castle. From this moment on, the prisoners in the blood prison felt a chill run down their spines. It seemed that an unknown change was taking place throughout Hazuki Castle, and in the near future, countless versions of eerie legends would circulate in the ninja world. No one knew whether they were true or false. They desperately searched for the source, but few truly knew that the black cloud that gradually enveloped the entire sky was, in the beginning, the shadow that pervaded Hazuki Castle. You have gained 2,000 achievement points. You have achieved the achievement, the Legend of the Chest of Elysium. The Legend of the Chest of Elysium. You are a master storyteller, redefining the name of the Chest of Elysium, completing the relevant versions of the story, and even providing tangible evidence to prove your story, thus winning the heart of the city lord, Wu Wei. You have gained 1,000 achievement points. You have obtained your third collectible, a Chest of Elysium whose history you have altered. Current event, Artists Collection Exhibition, 3/6, Event Settlement. This collection brings you 2,000 achievement points. The notification text rushed past like a train, the whistles accompanied by the clattering sound of gold coins. My empty wallet bulged, and the achievement points jumped rapidly. 2,000 plus 1,000 plus 2,000 equals 5,000 points. I mentally calculated the 4 digits, and before I knew it, I had 5,000 points. And this wasn't over yet. More notification text rumbled into my retina from afar. Kaguya Nami felt like her brain was steaming. Don't stop. Please don't stop. Kaguya Nami frantically chanted in her mind, letting this train laden with wealth rumble past, mercilessly crushing her body. Chapter 40 The Mastermind Special Reward. You have achieved the achievement, Director who peeks into human nature. Director who peeks into human nature, you orchestrated a script that exposed the darkness of human nature. You ruthlessly exposed the superstitious lies of the Box of Elysium, and then cleverly wove an even more ingenious lie, trapping Wu Wei in his future life. P.S. It's even difficult to comment on your actions. You deceived Wu Wei, but a true light of hope ignited in his eyes. You have gained 1,000 achievement points. Important historical progress. A new sub-project within the glory of the Seireitei has been completed. 3. Outposts occupied in the present world. Achieved. Current number of occupied outposts. 1 Hazuki Castle. Ps. Increases overall progress by 1%. 5. Proof of history. Current level upgraded to hidden. In the historical legends you have altered, the Box of Elysium will be renamed the Shrine of Shadows. As a trace left by the 13 Guardians in their journey through history, it is currently still largely unknown. You've given the Box of Elysium a new definition, linking it to the terrifying Hueco Mundo, which indirectly introduces the concept of the Shinigami, Death God, laying the groundwork for your subsequent promotional activities. P.S. The current level is still relatively unknown, but you've already taken a step from nothing to something, increasing the overall progress by 3%. 47. The first person to firmly believe in the existence of the Shinigami and the Gotei 13, achieved. P.S. Increased the overall progress by 0.5%. 63. A witness to the Shinigami creating hollows has appeared and is alive, achieved. P.S. Increased the overall progress by 0.5%. 148. You have assembled the outer circle of the native ninja world, achieved. P.S. Increased the overall progress by 1%. Total progress increased to 11.4%. Reached the second settlement stage, gaining 2,000 achievement points. End of credits. In total, 8,000 achievement points have been gained. Adding to his previous savings, Kaguya Nami now has 8,587 achievement points, her net worth increasing nearly 20 times in an instant. The satisfaction of this sudden wealth surge makes her mouth dry, her blood boil, and her desires unbearable. She longs to gamble everything right now. But restraint, control, lottery draws require ritual. Incense burning, bathing, prayer, none of these steps can be omitted. Kaguya Nami moved from the filthy prison guard's dormitory to a luxurious single room on the top floor of Hazuki Castle, replacing everything in the room with new items. He closed all the doors and windows, lay alone on the loose, soft bed, removed his mask, and gradually emptied his body and mind, leaving only his own heartbeat and the roulette wheel awaiting his turn. He'd heard that 10 consecutive draws could increase the chances of winning the grand prize. But Kaguya Nami was never bound by such old-fashioned methods, they were too vulgar. A director needs to have innovative thinking, to know how to subvert conventions, and to be able to pinpoint the core of things. It's like a lottery. What's most important? Is it analyzing probabilities? Of course not, it's knowing how to manipulate things behind the scenes. Kaguya Nami closed her eyes, letting her consciousness sink into the deepest part of the cheat system, and muttered to herself, "You are the cheat system, and I am the host. Our relationship is actually like that of an investor and a director. Let me explain it to you. I transmigrated, and you parasitized. Sharing a body is like jointly starting a movie project. The entire ninja world can be seen as the movie theater we built together. Then, the skills, equipment, cards, and miscellaneous items obtained through the lottery are like your phased investments. I'm responsible for writing the script, directing, and acting. The achievement points we collect are like the box office returns. Is that clear? So, we are actually interdependent. If you invest generously, I'll guarantee to tirelessly generate box office revenue for you all over the world, ensuring no padding, a tight plot, and constant climaxes, with attendance and word of mouth skyrocketing." Kaguya Nami didn't care whether the cheater could hear her or not. She just used the same trick she used to fool investors back then, tirelessly and sweetly praising her. After all that, do you understand what I mean? What I mean isn't that you should violate your own program rules, but things like lottery probabilities definitely follow some kind of algorithm. It's called random, but it fluctuates within a certain range. It's simple. Every time I draw a prize, you in the background adjust the pointer towards the maximum value of that range. In other words, within a reasonable range, you move me to the lucky zone. Within reasonable rules, cultivating a little understanding and tacit agreement, you're good, I'm good, the box office is good. Ultimately, it's all for better box office returns, so why not? Kaguya Nami finished her earnest explanation. The cheat program didn't respond at all, but he wasn't discouraged. That was normal. Some things can only be done, not agreed to. He believed that a cheat program that could name itself, the mastermind, "You've all misjudged me, I'm definitely a good person," would definitely be moved by his sincere words. The cheat program remained silent. But a line of text silently flashed through Kaguya Nami's mind. "You have achieved a special, hidden, and unique achievement. You have grasped the true essence of the mastermind. Everything can be manipulated by the mastermind, even cheat codes. P.S. Amidst the surging crowd, thank you for meeting you. You are the most favored host of the Black Good Guy cheat code. You have obtained a unique and special reward, the mastermind's behind-the-scenes manipulation. This behind-the-scenes manipulation ensures that you will only draw rewards equal to or greater than grade A in a specific type of draw. Please select the specific type of draw. A. Skills. B. Equipment. C. Cards. Hint: in your future draws, the number of skills and equipment in each round will be constantly adjusted to be equal, and the number of cards will be 1/10 of the total number of skills and equipment. Please select. Kaguya Nami suddenly opened her eyes, sat up abruptly from the bed, her face showing uncontrollable excitement, and her breathing, controlled by her central nervous system, became rapid. This was truly a choice that was driving a Libra crazy. The last time he faced such a difficult choice in his life was back in his past life, when 3 girls he admired cried and begged to marry him, but only one name could be written on the marriage certificate. First, let's rule out equipment, because the equipment slots only have 6 slots. Even if they can be expanded later, it's incomparable to the unlimited skill slots. That leaves only skills and cards. Although cards also face the issue of limited quantity, even if we only have 3, the all-around boost they provide, once I collect 3 S-rank cards, I'll probably be invincible. Kaguya Nami fully displayed her double standards. Most importantly, she simply couldn't imagine the mental explosion that would occur if she finally drew a card only to find it was trash. Choosing a skill equals building a harem. Choosing a card equals being picky plus loyal. I choose C. Kaguya Nami made her choice and poured all 8,000 achievement points into the roulette wheel in one go, aiming for a refreshing 8 pull. Please leave more comments so I can comment on how I enjoy copying books, and that updates will naturally increase. Chapter 41 I rigged the lottery using a cheat code. You have drawn a B-grade equipment, 4 staff, plus 10 spirit, plus 150 health, active release, pushes any target unit forward a distance of 1 to 100 meters, mana cost 100, cooldown 23s, it's so-so, nothing particularly good or bad. Just a lucky draw. Kaguya Nami felt nothing. You have drawn a C-grade skill, paper drawing. By releasing all physical strength, one can control their body as easily as drawing on paper. Use it flexibly in battle, adapting to various situations. It is one of the 6 styles of the Navy. P.S. Collecting all 6 styles of the Navy, 1/6, will grant an extra reward. Kaguya Nami frowned slightly, feeling a pang of heartache. Although she could manipulate the card selection process and give up the skills of her harem beauties for it, why this intense reluctance? It was as if she had once possessed them. You have drawn a C-rank item, a bundle of Nichiren blades, 10, Nichiren blades. The blades are forged from ore that absorbs sunlight. They are the only weapons that can damage Oni. They will display different colors depending on the user's attributes. This is the first time Kaguya Nami has drawn an item. It's like opening a window to a new world. It turns out that items are all given away in bulk. That's so generous. You have drawn a C-rank item, a stack of Town Portal Scrolls, 10, Town Portal Scrolls, a teleportation scroll produced in Warcraft. It can teleport the user and nearby friendly units to any of the user's standing bases. There are no attribute bonuses. The user is invincible during teleportation and cannot be interrupted. Mana cost 75, casting time 3s, cooldown 65s. After drawing 2 C-rank items in a row, Kaguya Nami's expression turned slightly unpleasant. Although these 2 items easily evoke strong strategic value, and almost the instant she drew them, Kaguya Nami conjured up various versions of stories and meanings in her mind. They just couldn't compare to the allure of A-rank items. After a massive 8 pull, Kaguya Nami felt she had temporarily gained the right to be a snob. You have drawn a C-rank skill, Suffocating Dagger. Suffocating Dagger throws a dagger at an enemy unit, slowing their movement speed and dealing damage equal to 65 plus 40% of your own attack damage, while also inheriting the attack effects of the item and skill. Movement speed reduced 50%, casting range 750 m, mana cost 30, cooldown 4s. Kaguya Nami's heart ached. She had already drawn 2 C-rank skills, which meant she had sacrificed 2 A-rank skills. At this moment, she had the urge to chop off her hands. You have drawn a B-rank item, Parasite Egg 10, Parasitic Egg, a larval unit parasitized by spores. Its primary target is the brain. After parasitism, it assimilates with the brain cells and manages this brain-dead body. Its secondary target is to parasitize other tissues in the body, living in symbiosis with a parasitized unit. It can freely change its shape. All of the above are under your control. P.S. Initially, the parasite egg is very fragile, but it has strong growth potential after parasitism. Please choose the parasitized unit carefully. Kaguya Nami's expression changed, a smile curving her lips. She seemed to have drawn something quite interesting. As a director of thriller suspense dramas, she had secretly downloaded and studied the R-rated anime series Parasite, enjoying its thrilling yet intriguing premise. Finally, I've drawn something I really like, she thought. However, she still hadn't drawn a card. With only 2 chances left, Kaguya Nami felt a pang of anxiety. Even drawing 8 times in a row didn't guarantee a card. That was the only statistically plausible outcome. However, the first consecutive draw should have a lucky bonus, right? What perfect teamwork! You've drawn a B-rank skill, Hatching Spider. Hatching Spider injects insect eggs into the enemy, causing damage. If the enemy dies during the infection, the eggs will hatch into spiderlings, emerging from their body and under your control. Small spider duration 60 minutes, damage 100, mana cost 100, cooldown 9s. Just imagining this skill is terrifying, especially with its eerie description. It's difficult to assess its actual damage based on your game skill level. The damage is far more than just a number. Another skill that could have been in A rank has been sacrificed. Kaguya Nami held her breath, still unwilling to give up. Some movies or scripts are like this. The climax always comes at the very end. Until the last second, who knows if there won't be a plot twist or an Easter egg? A card. It has to be a card. You have drawn a card. The roulette wheel stopped spinning, and a spinning card was launched. The background music changed. Eerie sound effects, pitch black fog, as if countless evil spirits were watching from within. A dense mass of gaze is focused on the card that surfaced. You have drawn the progenitor of demons, Muzan Kibutsuji, S rank, 3-star card, strength plus 20, agility plus 50, spirit plus 80, talents. 1. Immortality, SS, 2. Perfect mimicry, S, 3. Blood curse, SS, immortality, you possess near infinite lifespan, having long since transcended the shackles of life. Within your seemingly human body, you possess 5 brains and 7 hearts, granting you near perpetual motion machine-like regenerative abilities. You can recover instantly from an attack, easily regenerating even if your body is cut to pieces. You are virtually invincible. Perfect mimicry, you can freely change your appearance, gender, scent, etc. Anything visible to the naked eye can be completely altered. Gender, age, and race cannot define your existence. You can perfectly conceal yourself among any group. Blood curse, humans bestowed with your blood will be transformed into demons. Skills. 1. Physical transformation, S, 2. Blood demon art, SS, 3. Curse, S. Physical transformation, your body can undergo countless bizarre and unpredictable transformations. Blood demon art, as the progenitor of demons, theoretically, all blood demon art created by demons originates from your blood. You can fully master and wield it. Curse, your blood simultaneously implants curses within demons. Through these curses, you can read their thoughts at close range, monitor their location in real time, and control their life and death. Any demon that dares to betray you or leak your information will be corrupted by the curse and die weakness. You are cursed by sunlight. Continuous exposure to sunlight will cause you to vanish into nothingness. Items methods related to sunlight will have a certain degree of restraint on you. P.S. You have unlocked a new identity, the progenitor of demons. You are the source of demons. You created the demon race. As long as you live, demons will never perish. The information of all the demons you have ever created exists in your blood bank. This means that if you are willing to pay a price, you can even resurrect demons that have already perished. As long as you live, demons will never perish. If you are listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means it was downloaded and re-uploaded without effort. We warmly invite you to visit our channel, Fanfic World. There you will find the original version of this story and many other novels of various genres. We look forward to seeing you dive into a world of incredible novels. Chapter 42, S-rank cards unlock new identities. Muzan Kibutsuji, the first demon to survive over 1,000 years ago, is the absolute ruler of demons. He claims to be a near-perfect being, the progenitor and source of all demons, the ultimate villainous boss who shrouds a world in terror and shadow. He is utterly devoid of humanity, cold-blooded, cruel, and ruthless. Even to his own family, he is despised by both humans and demons. He truly embodies the epitome of villainy, with absolutely no redemption, pure blackness in every sense. As the progenitor of demons, he possesses near godlike power, yet this doesn't reflect any corresponding charisma or authority. Instead, his inner ugliness, hunchback, cowardice, and incompetence are highlighted, making him a figure of intense hatred for both allies and enemies. He's truly unparalleled. His nickname in the underworld, Boscum, perfectly encapsulates his scumbag nature. When Kaguya Nami watched this anime in her previous life, she was stunned. A godlike body was occupied by a maggot clinging to life. Such a villain, representing pure evil, actually lived until the very end. It was truly an injustice. However, this also shows that Muzan Kibutsuji's talent and skills were indeed ridiculously overpowered. If it weren't for the fact that this scumbag's personality was so incorrigible and his PTSD so severe, even with his fatal weakness of being optimistic, Kaguya Nami judged that this card would definitely not be just an S-rank 3-star card, equip card. In an instant, a sound that sounded like crying and laughing came from beside her. A closed room was shrouded in endless black mist. Stepping into the room, the walls, ceiling, and tatami mats were all covered with torn corpses and splattered blood. The nauseating stench of blood, like a viscous liquid, polluted every inch of the air. Countless grotesquely severed heads lay scattered on the windowsill, used as flower pots, covered in soil and blooming with crimson vines. A figure in a cheongsam, with delicate features whose gender was indistinguishable, stood beside the flower pots, holding a watering can from which gushing blood spurted. He slowly turned around. Half his body was exquisitely beautiful in the light, the other half hidden in darkness, exuding a putrid stench. One half of his face wore a chilling smile, while the other half was twisted in terror, screaming hysterically. Two crimson eyes stared intently at the door, from which hung a string of flame-patterned earrings. Whoosh! The door was flung open. Kaguya Nami pushed open the door and entered, frowning as she glanced at the corpses scattered on the floor. Out of the corner of her eye, she caught sight of the earring, and a meaningful smile appeared on her lips as she said in a low voice, "God? Maggot? This isn't how you play the villain." Muzan Kibutsuji stood still, his eyes fixed on her. A new world lies beyond the door. Since you dare not go out, then let me take your place. Give me everything, and I will allow you to witness through my eyes what a true villainous boss is. Kaguya Nami smiled kindly and gently. She stepped over the blood-stained stones on the ground, walking slowly and firmly towards Muzan Kibutsuji. A villain who dares not expose himself to the sunlight is unqualified. Give me everything, and I will vindicate Muzan Kibutsuji and write a story that even the sun cannot hide. I will show you how a villain should be. Kaguya Nami stood before Muzan Kibutsuji, a beaming expression on her face. She grabbed him and pulled him forcefully towards her body, thanking him, "I accept everything you have." The scene shattered. Muzan Kibutsuji's figure disintegrated into viscous blood, pouring back towards Kaguya Nami, greedily sucked clean by the pores of her entire body. Kaguya Nami abruptly opened her eyes, countless wisps of black energy flickering within their pale depths. Beads of cold sweat appeared on her forehead, a throbbing sensation gripped her head, and a jumble of chaotic thoughts raced uncontrollably through her mind. Her chest pounded like a drum, and her ears were filled with a cacophony of heartbeats, as if multiple brains and hearts had been suddenly crammed into her body. Rings of black energy rose from her cyborg, and blood vessels replicated across her pale skin before silently disappearing back into her body, leaving her skin even paler. This perfectly equipped cyborg, under the influence of some strange force, had completed its transformation into a demonic form. Her body was both a cyborg and a demonic form, the two could merge or separate. A realization dawned on Kaguya Nami. It all depended on who resided in her card slot. In sunlight, if Muzan Kibutsuji is removed, the body disassembles into an independent prosthetic body. At night, if Muzan Kibutsuji is reattached, the body assembles into a fusion of prosthetic body and demonic form. It's very convenient. If other special cards are acquired later, even more combinations can be tried. The fusion is still underway, with important fragments of Muzan Kibutsuji's life playing in Kaguya Nami's mind like a high-speed movie clip. Simultaneously, the memories and experiences related to the extracted skills are being infused. Even with several processors in her head capable of multitasking, she's starting to feel the strain. He lay on the bed, eyes closed, slowly digesting the experience. This was probably the happy trouble after 8 consecutive draws. His attribute panel was undergoing a dramatic change. Name: Kaguya Nami. Life form: Shinigami, perfect grade armored ghoul, demon body, identity 2/3, Lord of the Seireitei, Spirit King, progenitor of demons. Cards 2/3, Magician Hisoka, A rank 2-star card, Kibutsuji Muzan, S rank 3-star card, equipment. 2/6, Shadow Shrine, C, 4 staff, B, health. 4940, 4940 energy. 4210 strength, 47 agility, 91 spirit, 135 skills. Shikatsu Myaku, ghoul, perfect superposition of Shikatsu Myaku and armored ghoul. Shinigami basic ability pack, slash fist and oni walk, blood demon art, SS, body transformation, S, curse, S, blood sacrifice, A, flexible love, A, thin illusion, B, paper drawing, C, suffocating dagger, C, talent, immortality, SS, blood curse, SS, perfect mimicry, S, perverted aesthetics, S, magician's deception, A, items, nicher and blade, C, 10, return scroll, C, 10, parasitic beast egg. 10. Now, I should be able to barely afford to be considered as having some means of self-defense. In a few days, when the guests from Kusagakure arrive, I'll do a little testing. If there are no problems, I might be able to pull off some fancy maneuvers, like creating another public account? These days, how can a mastermind go out without a few aliases? Should I go and say hello to the next village first? Alright, I'm stronger at night than during the day. A jumble of thoughts flooded her mind, slowly gathering together, the individually beating heart gradually finding its resonant frequency, merging into a single pulse. The night passed without incident. Kaguya Nami was processing this new self. P.S. I'll let you in on a little secret. QQ Group 798,230,019. Chapter 43 Chairman Nami's solo performance. Watanabe was suffering from insomnia. He stared at his bloodless face in the mirror, where a slightly sunken patch of new flesh had filled in the dents where insects and bacteria had eaten away at the flesh. This was the effect of the flesh-repairing agent Mayuri Kuratsuchi had injected into his face. Chakra healing techniques could also heal muscles, but it was rare to achieve such rapid results with a single injection. Watanabe stroked his face, then stuck out his tongue to examine the pattern on it. A baby's face with closed eyes was vividly depicted on the greasy, reddish tongue, sending a chill down his spine. Then, he opened his chest. There was a thin, long blade there. He touched it with his finger. The scar had healed, but, supposedly, a flesh bomb had been implanted near his heart. What was a flesh bomb? It was probably like having an explosive tag wrapped around the heart valve. Watanabe dared not try to verify the truth of Mayuri Kuratsuchi's words. Given the methods and style these three members of the Gotei 13, no, these three Shinigami, had displayed tonight, they were definitely not joking or bluffing. The Gotei 13? Shinigami? If all this is true, then the world of ninjas is probably about to change drastically. If I submit to the Shinigami, does that make me a traitor to the entire ninja world, a ninja collaborator? Oh well, I'm not a good person anyway, and this ninja world is terrible. This isn't so bad, maybe it's a chance for Kusagakure to rise again. Also, if I behave, they'll dismantle this human bomb for me, right? While Watanabe was lost in thought, a knock on the door startled him. He opened the door, and standing there was Wu Wei, his former colleague and superior, who had just suggested the Shinigami kill them to silence them. And now, he was coming to see him as if nothing had happened. What's worse, he was his direct superior. Go and send a message to Kusagakure, inviting them to Hazuki Castle for the ceremony. This is your job, is that alright? Wu Wei stared expressionlessly at Watanabe, saying calmly, I know you've had secret contacts with Kusagakure. Sending you will make them more likely to believe you. Chairman Nami values this matter highly, we dare not disappoint him. Chairman Nami was the Shinigami wearing the pale white blood-dripping mask, the highest leader of the Gotei 13. They had the privilege of hearing the upper echelon self-introductions when the ceremony ended. The other two Shinigami were the 3rd Division Captain Ichimaru Jin and the 12th Division Captain Kuratsuchi Mayuri. I'll do my best. There was no point in arguing about past shady dealings. Watanabe had now decided to completely sever ties with the past. He would now wholeheartedly serve the Gotei 13, becoming a diligent and loyal peripheral ninja. Indeed, life is the best motivator for work efficiency. Without hesitation, Watanabe set off that very night, his feet never stopping as he raced towards Kusagakure. His mind raced, calculating how to craft his words to gain the trust of the villagers and motivate them to return to Hazuki Castle as quickly as possible. It seemed Watanabe had quickly grasped some of the corporate culture of the Gotei 13. 2 days later, his lips chapped and his face tanned dark, Watanabe grinned, a smile he had been trying to conceal the journey, as he looked at Hazuki Castle swallowed by the night. Behind him stood the indignant and menacing Kusagakure leadership. Apart from the 2 Jonin remaining in Kusagakure, the rest of the village's leadership had mobilized their forces. Looking at their vicious faces, they seemed more like vengeful relatives coming to collect a debt than invited guests. Who knows what Watanabe had embellished with his words. In any case, he had successfully invited them all back. On the top floor of Hazuki Castle, a cluster of parasitic insects solidified into the shape of a vertical eye. The outer layer of this eye was covered with layers of bacterial carpet, while within this tightly sealed inner layer was a white, constantly moving eyeball. Needless to say, this was undoubtedly Mayuri Kuratsuchi's invention of the past 2 days, a surveillance system with a field of view encompassing the entire Hazuki Castle and extending outwards in a diameter of 5 kilometers, several times the field of view of a normal white eye. Inside the monitoring room, a 5-meter-long and wide wall was covered with a wriggling water mirror, its surface divided into hundreds of sections, displaying a dense, all-encompassing, blind spot-free surveillance feed. The chairman's guests have arrived. Open the door and let them in. Okay, wait a minute, it seems the chairman went out to greet them personally. The group exchanged suspicious glances. Mayuri Kuratsuchi tilted her head, plucked her hair, and thought for a moment before saying, "It's truly an honor for the guests to be greeted by the chairman himself. Let's go out too." Gin Ichimaru squinted and chuckled, "I think the chairman is just adding some entertainment for himself. Let's not go and steal the show, we can just watch from here. Is that alright?" Mayuri hesitated. "Don't you enjoy watching Chairman Nami's solo performance? These opportunities are very precious. Or are you worried that something might happen to the chairman, given these guests who have come from afar?" Gin Ichimaru's face was full of disdain. It wasn't that he looked down on ninjas, but he hadn't encountered a single one who could truly fight. Of course, with his strength as a squad leader, even in the entire Soul Society, those who could catch his eye were few and far between. How could that be? "I'm just worried that without an audience, the chairman's performance experience will be diminished," Mayuri Kuratsuchi replied, but instead of going out, she pulled up a chair, sat down, and watched the monitoring screen with great interest. Wu Wei silently withdrew. He didn't think he was qualified to watch the movie with the two squad leaders. A row of bull-headed figures had been waiting in the corridor, silently following behind Wu Wei. Wu Wei couldn't help but sigh. These former subordinates had become increasingly obedient and diligent in their work these past few days. Blood Prison was now truly united from top to bottom. They walked quickly towards the top of the castle. They needed to act as the audience for the chairman, and the thought of seeing familiar faces filled them with undisguised glee. The divided grass ninja village was about to reunite. This was a sign of great prosperity. In the monitoring room, Mayuri Kuratsuchi zoomed in on the screen, focusing the lens on Kaguya Nami. He saw a figure on the top floor of Hazuki Castle slowly spreading his arms. The hem of his Shinigami uniform rippled in the night sky. He fell straight forward, the billowing wind whipping his hori. Like a grim reaper descending from the sky to the earth. Chapter 44 Powerful. A dark figure descended from the sky, its feet leaving the high wall. Thin, invisible threads emerged from its body, sticking to the wall like chewing gum, pulling and dragging Kaguya Nami, making her look like a bat torn from the night, gliding in a strange trail before abruptly landing before the guests from Kusagakure. "Someone's coming down. He can fly." Amid the commotion, Watanabe Naoji stepped forward, kneeling on one knee and bowing respectfully to the stark white mask. "Chairman, the person has been brought back. Well done." A cheerful voice came from behind the mask. Watanabe Naoji's face lit up with joy, and he quickly rose to stand behind the chairman. "Chairman? What chairman? Who are you? Where's Miwei? Tell him to come out and see us." A Kusagakure Jonin frowned, noticing Watanabe Naoji's respectful attitude. Something seemed amiss. Watanabe Naoji hadn't mentioned this person to them before. "It seems my subordinates didn't accurately present the true situation here to the guests from Kusagakure." Kaguya sighed rather helplessly. "But it doesn't matter. You'll have plenty of time to get to know me, provided that you can make me feel a little bit pleased." "What do you mean?" Although her tone was gentle, the hidden meaning in her words sent chills down their spines. "What I mean is, I don't want my newly recruited subordinates to be useless. So, I need to test your strength a little. Please attack me with a conviction that you're certain of death. Of course, given your status and some added value, I will treat you as gently as possible." Kaguya Nami's eyes flashed crimson, and a chilling killing intent suddenly emanated from her body. The guests from Kusagakure instantly shuddered, feeling as if they were being targeted by a death god and demon in human skin. The next sentence floated into their ears, "But if anyone is too weak, then, just die." The words lingered in everyone's minds, and the figure in front of them instantly disappeared from the spot, appearing behind the first Jonin who had spoken. His arm stretched out with eerie flexibility, like a soft whip wrapping around the opponent's neck from behind, his fingertips holding a playing card against the opponent's throat. The playing card sharply sliced through the skin, tore through the muscle fibers, and gently ripped a small gash in the throat. "Don't stand there, you'll die." The eerie voice sent a chill down Jonin's spine. He felt as if he'd fallen into an ice cave. Just when he thought he was doomed, the playing card snapped back, leaving only a string of blood droplets. He retrieved his throat. The show's just begun. I'll spare your life for now, but next time, things might be different. Kaguya Nami flicked her finger, sending the blood-stained ace of spades spinning through the air, deflecting a kunai shot from mid-air. Jonin Ace swallowed hard, the stinging pain in his throat fueling his rage. He swiftly formed hand seals, then unleashed a barrage of fireballs as he turned. Yes, that's the murderous look in his eyes. Kaguya Nami grinned, her body instantly floating backward like paper. Simultaneously, she flicked her right hand, and a nearby ninja's forehead seemed to be glued to something invisible, violently pulling at his scalp and propelling him forward. His eyes widened in horror. Without hesitation, he slashed at his scalp with his 5 fingers forming a blade. His scalp and flesh were mangled, and the bloodied skull felt cool in the wind. Before he could even feel relieved, he saw Kaguya Nami, still swaying in the wind, close at hand. A pale hand was aimed at his shoulder. The next instant, the hand split open, revealing a section of bone. The bone blade, sharp as a knife, pierced his shoulder. Corpse bone pulse? He wasn't sure. He looked down at the bloody hole in his shoulder. Within the gruesome flesh, glistening insect eggs were wriggling. His pupils contracted sharply. The wriggling creatures were tiny spiders trying to hatch. The area around the hole seemed infected, turning a bluish-purple to black, slowly and steadily spreading throughout his body. If I told you that as long as you don't die, these little spiders won't hatch, would you feel at ease? Kaguya Nami grabbed the leg that was kicking towards her head, casually flicking it away, twisting the leg into a pretzel. Only then did she look at the ninja who had been injected with spider eggs, sincerely trying to reassure him. The ninja felt as if he had fallen into an ice cave. He looked at Kaguya Nami as if he were staring at a demon in human skin. What did she mean by they won't hatch unless they die? Was that something a human could say? He let out a suppressed roar, and his left hand slashed fiercely at the shoulder with a kunai. Swoosh! The severed arm tore off and fell to the ground, blood splattering everywhere, a gruesome sight of glistening spider eggs mixed with blood and dirt. I really like your ruthlessness. Congratulations, you've become the first person to pass the test. Kaguya Nami spoke the truth. With a light tap of her foot, her agility of 90 points allowed her to leave a trail of afterimages in the air with her physical speed alone. She appeared behind the one-armed ninja, gently stroking the wound on his severed arm with one hand, instantly injecting a parasitic worm egg. Tell me your name. Kaguya Nami asked. Akijimori. Cold sweat poured down his forehead, and he dared not move. Very good. As the first person to pass the test, your desire to live is admirable. This is your reward. Kaguya Nami released her grip, simultaneously issuing a command to the parasitic worm in her mind, instructing it to parasitize Akijimori's heart and merge with him into a symbiotic organism. A piercing pain shot through his heart, as if insects were frantically gnawing at it. His veins bulged all over his body, and Akijimori let out a scream that was neither human nor inhuman, convulsing as he collapsed to the ground. It will hurt a little at first, but it will pass quickly. Kaguya Nami patiently explained, then looked at the ninjas who had unconsciously scattered their ranks. He smelled the air thick with the scent of fear and blood, and said softly, the role models for passing the test have been chosen for you. Now, let's continue. On the walls of Hazuki Castle, Wu Wei and a group of bull-headed ninjas stood in the fierce wind, intently watching the performance on the ground. Seeing the Kusagakure Jonin being utterly humiliated, just like they had been 2 days prior, gave them a dark sense of satisfaction. So miserable. Compared to them, we're lucky. At least we didn't have to go through the chairman's test. We were only slightly humiliated by the 2 squad leaders, and we wisely surrendered. We're grateful the chairman accepted us back then. The bull-headed ninjas, lined up in a row, felt a sense of gratitude for surviving such a calamity. Looking at the tragic state of their former Kusagakure colleagues, their conversation was filled with a gankei, deep feelings, and a sense of superiority that came from being a senior. Who is stronger, the squad leader or the chairman? It's hard for them to judge. Theoretically, it should be the chairman, but when it comes to whose personality is the most twisted and vicious, and who can create the most terrifying psychological trauma for others, isn't it obvious? I suddenly believe what the chairman said that day. After this sentence was said, there was a moment of silence in the room, as if they didn't know how to respond, so everyone just nodded in unison in agreement. Does the Gotei 13 mean that besides the 3 lords we've already met, there are at least 10 other squad leaders of similar rank? That means there are at least 13 cage-level ninjas. The Shinigami and we ninjas shouldn't have the same evaluation system, but if we have to force a comparison, a squad leader should at least be cage level, which means we have 13 cage level ninjas standing behind us. A group of bullheaded ninjas' eyes lit up, and they couldn't help but feel a strong sense of belonging to the Gotei 13. They suddenly realized that being a ninja spy might be the most promising profession in the future of the ninja world, and not just anyone can do it. They already had to pass a test, and it might get even harder in the future. As the first batch of recruits, they all felt a similar urge to work even harder, their work ethic ignited. Wu Wei stood quietly in front, his face expressionless and solemn, almost like a man with a poker face. He didn't have much inner drama, or perhaps he had already brainwashed himself. His gaze was fixed on the president's back in the darkness. To him, it wasn't just a back, it was a light tearing through the darkness. Inside the monitoring room, Mayuri Kuratsuchi stared intently at the screen, waving his hands excitedly. I love every line the president says. There's always a hint of kindness hidden within his coldness, a kind of elegant cruelty. Isn't that hypocrisy? Gin Ichimaru thought to himself. Those lines, well, they gave him a chilling sense of familiarity. Watching the figure performing so freely on the screen, it was as if he were reliving fragments of his past memories. They were becoming more and more alike. Do you think the president and Aizen Sasuke look alike? Gin Ichimaru asked suddenly, his eyes narrowing. Mayuri Kuratsuchi, who had been gesticulating wildly, froze, like a bizarre puppet, only her head turning slightly backward. She grinned exaggeratedly and said, completely different. Aizen Sasuke almost destroyed Soul Society, while the guild master aims to revive the glory of the Seireitei. The former represents the evil villain, while the latter symbolizes justice and order. Even if the methods seem similar, the goals are completely different. Gin Ichimaru pondered. And the endings will definitely be different too. Aizen Sasuke ultimately failed, he's the villain who takes off his mask. But Guildmaster Nami is going to be the savior. It sounds like a wonderful and anticipated ending. Mayuri Kuratsuchi made a face, silently adding in her mind, even if the Guildmaster takes off his mask, it doesn't matter, as long as everyone who sees it becomes one of us, or a dead person. Gin Ichimaru and Mayuri Kuratsuchi stared at each other for 3 seconds before turning and walking away. Aren't you going to watch anymore? Mayuri Kuratsuchi asked. The performance is almost over, it's time for us to go out and give the chairman a round of applause. Gin Ichimaru said without turning his head. Mayuri Kuratsuchi shrieked and rushed out of the monitoring room to catch up with Gin Ichimaru. He wouldn't let Gin Ichimaru take all the credit. The door was open, revealing an empty monitoring room. On the writhing screen, the images kept changing. A group of ninjas lay sprawled on the ground, unable to get up, all staring at the single standing figure in the center with pale, terrified faces. Is this the end? If that's all, I'll have a hard time letting you pass the test. Fine, I'll give you one last chance. I'll stand here and not fight back. All of you attack me together. If you can hurt me, I'll allow you to live. Otherwise. Nami Kaguya drew a playing card and tossed it gently into the air. The time limit is until the card lands. This is your last chance, so don't give up. Her words fell. The ninjas surrounding the figure instinctively glanced at the swirling, falling ghost card, then let out ferocious roars. After fighting for so long, they understood that even all of them combined were no match for this monster. He was merely toying with them like a cat playing with a mouse. But if he dared to stand still, they would kill him together. Unable to even crawl, their faces flushed and necks bulging, they rapidly formed hand seals, gathering all their chakra, preparing to unleash their most powerful and destructive ninjutsu. They unleashed a barrage of attacks on the motionless figure. The wind was sliced apart, the water roared, flames exploded, and towering earth spikes completely enveloped Kaguya Nami. Smoke and dust billowed, and the figure within seemed truly motionless. So, she was probably dead. The ghost card was torn to pieces in midair, drifting back to the ground with the smoke and dust. The panting ninjas stared intently at the dissipating dust, holding their breath. Then, finally, they saw a figure standing in the center, his clothes charred and emitting a burnt smell. A corner of his pale white mask snapped off with a crack. Dead? Dead. It would be normal for him to be dead, but a sense of unreality, which they couldn't understand, lingered within them. Crack. 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 Chunks of charcoal shattered and fell away. They watched in wide eyes as the charcoal shell, like a corpse shell, was torn open from the inside. First, a pale hand emerged, Then the charred shell was ripped in two, revealing an unharmed body. Then, two unfamiliar figures suddenly appeared behind him. One, wearing a black and white mask, conjured a black cloak from nowhere and draped it over the body. The other, a man with narrowed eyes and a sly smile, clapped lightly and exclaimed, as expected of the guildmaster. If it were me, I wouldn't be able to emerge unscathed from being hit head-on by so many ninjutsu. That person wasn't dead. And there were two more unfamiliar men dressed similarly to that person. The ninjas were filled with despair. Captain Ichimaru is too modest. In front of you, they didn't even have time to form hand seals. Kaguya Nami crushed the cracked mask on her face, revealing a pale, cold, and alluring face. She turned to Mayuri Kuratsuchi and said politely, "I'll have to trouble Captain Mayuri to make me a new mask again." Ichimaru and Mayuri Kuratsuchi both took a step back and bowed slightly to the back of their guildmaster, Nami. Kaguya Nami chuckled, raised her hand, and her entire arm transformed into a bizarre, fleshy scythe, pinning a ninja who had struggled to crawl 100 meters away to the ground. She then looked at the other exhausted and desperate guests, saying, "I saw it clearly. While you were desperately trying to kill me, only he was crawling away to escape. This betrayal is shameful, so I punished him on your behalf. And you?" The ninja swallowed hard. "Desperately trying to kill you? How could we dare have such a thought? Although I wasn't injured, your final performance was satisfactory. After all, I'm a merciful Grim Reaper. Congratulations, you've passed the test." The retracted scythe returned to its arm shape, blood dripping from her fingernails onto the ground. Combined with Kaguya Nami's smiling expression, it seemed particularly gratifying and convincing. "Monday, I want to climb the rankings. Please give monthly tickets, recommendation tickets, and rewards." Behind the bull-headed mask stand 13 cage-level figures, and behind me stand you all. He hugged me tight. Chapter 45 The Lucky Parasite. When Akajimori woke up, it was the afternoon of the third day. It felt like he'd had a terrifying, realistic, and long nightmare in which he was mercilessly tortured by a horrifying man wearing a pale white mask. The man first ripped off his scalp, then pierced his shoulder, parasitizing his flesh with spider eggs. After he was forced to sever his shoulder, the man said in a sinister tone that he would give him a reward, stuffing something into the severed flesh of his shoulder. Finally, he simply fainted. It wasn't a dream. It wasn't some terrifying man, it was my master. And the thing stuffed into your shoulder was me. I'm now parasitizing your heart, fused with you as a symbiote. I'm the first parasite to inhabit a host in this world. You can call me number 1. Akajimori's face drained of all color. A voice was speaking to him in his head. Was he still asleep, still dreaming? I told you it wasn't a dream. Humans are truly foolish creatures. They don't understand why Master wanted me to coexist with you. Wouldn't it have been easier to just eat your brain? The voice in his mind spoke without a trace of human emotion. Akajimori felt as if he had fallen into an ice cave. He watched as his right arm involuntarily rose up, and then his palm suddenly split open like peeling an apple, revealing long, winding strings of bloody tendons. At the tip was a sharp, hooked scythe that stabbed towards his eyeball, slicing through his eyelid, and then stopping precisely on the membrane of his eyeball. Pain can stimulate nerve feedback. You can see clearly now. This isn't a dream, is it? Parasite number 1 was using the most efficient method to make Akajimori recognize reality. I remember. Akajimori didn't dare to blink. He stiffly moved his arm away, and now his arm was under his control again, shrinking back to its normal shape. Only now, a hideous eyeball had grown on the back of his hand, spinning around and coldly staring at him. 3 hours later, number 1, a species called a parasite, was referring to that person as its master. Becoming the symbiotic host of the parasite was a special reward bestowed upon him. Akajimori gradually accepted his symbiotic relationship with number 1. At least, his broken shoulder had been reattached, and outwardly he wasn't disabled. Moreover, he had become stronger. He could clearly feel the changes in his body structure beneath his skin. His heart was pounding like a pump, providing a powerful blood supply to his entire body. His internal organs, which were previously untrainable and uncontrollable, were now all integrated and controlled by number 1, delivering nutrients to his entire body in the most efficient and rational way. In simpler terms, his strength had increased. He could easily crush a chair leg with a little effort. His agility had also increased. His 10 fingers were incredibly nimble, almost inhuman. And if he could tolerate the pain, he could even twist them into pretzel shape. His mental strength had also been significantly enhanced. His eyes could track the flight path of a fly, and the efficiency of his chakra flow was like it had been accelerated. Most terrifyingly, the sharp, fleshy scythe disguised as an arm, once swung, was so fast it created after images, and it was extremely stealthy and sharp. It's like obtaining a bloodline limit that can modify the body. Although it looks terrifying, it's incredibly powerful, Akagimori muttered to himself. This world has never lacked monsters who transform themselves into non-humans for power, and as a ninja, he was very accepting of this. His only concern was that he needed to discuss the allocation and use of this body with Parasite number 1. As he pondered, his comrades from Kusagakure entered one after another, explaining the bright future to Akagimori and collectively showing him the baby face on his tongue and the surgical scar on his chest. Death God. Gotei 13. Under the earnest and resolute persuasion of his comrades, Akagimori accepted his new persona. From that day forward, he would serve as the leader of Kusagakure to the outside world, and internally as a peripheral ninja spy within the Gotei 13 subordinate organization. He couldn't refuse, although his tongue hadn't been painted and his heart hadn't been implanted with a flesh bomb, it was because his body harbored a parasitic beast, the number 1 parasite, that could constantly read his thoughts and control his life and death. Reality is even more unbelievable than a dream. My dream of becoming the leader of Kusagakure has come true. Akagimori exclaimed, overwhelmed with emotion. The image of the masked man flashed through his mind, a complex smile playing on his lips. Number 1, what would happen if I betrayed Chairman Nami? That's utterly pointless thinking. Strictly speaking, you have no ability to betray your master with this body. Number 1 answered rationally. If its master hadn't ordered it to coexist with this body, it would have already devoured that stupid brain. Then I must thank Chairman Nami for her merciful reward. Akagimori said sheepishly. Your master doesn't need your gratitude. Fulfilling the tasks your master gives you is our greatest value. Number 1 said coldly. After learning yesterday that Konoha was about to hold the Chunin exams, Kaguya Nami's first order to Kusagakure was for Akagimori, as the leader of Kusagakure, to attend the exams in Konoha. She also added another name to the list of Jinan from Kusagakure participating in the exams. You have achieved the achievement, the initial establishment of the Seireitei's network of friends. The initial establishment of the Seireitei's network of friends, you secretly supported the grass village, invisibly halting its inevitable decline. In the foreseeable future, the grass village's influence will gradually expand on the ninja world stage. You helped the grass village realize their dreams, and the grass village will steadfastly support the leadership of the Gotei 13. This is a small step for the network of friends centered on the Seireitei, but a giant leap for the ninja world. You have gained 2,000 achievement points, you have initiated a new event, the Chunin exams. The Chunin exams, you facilitated the grass village leader's attendance at Konoha and added a name that wouldn't normally appear on the exam list. This is a debut on a major stage. Are you ready with your script? This event has a high impact factor and will be calculated using the underworld pentagon method. Hint. The timing of this Chunin exams may overlap with a major historical event of the Uchiha clan massacre. You can choose to take advantage of this. It will increase the impact factor and score. In the basement of Azuki Castle, Kaguya Nami, sitting atop the box of Elysium, had a mysterious black light flickering in her eyes. You can treat this as Kaguya Nami in one piece. A good read when you're looking for something to read. Chapter 46 New Script and Lottery. In the dark, silent basement, 3 figures were engaged in a secret meeting surrounding the box of Elysium. To convince others that you are a force of justice, simply going out and boasting about your glorious achievements is not only embarrassing but also diminishes your prestige and credibility. The easiest way is always to directly create an evil enemy for justice, then gradually introduce the savior of justice through the groundwork laid by evil. Everything will then fall into place naturally. The more terrifying and cruel the evil, the more despair it inspires, and justice will inevitably triumph over evil, ultimately being elevated to godhood by the world. As the director, Kaguya Nami was well versed in script writing. The Seireitei is justice, and Hueco Mundo is evil? Ichimaru Jin, recalling his actions in Kirigakure and the news story woven around the box of Elysium, instantly understood. If Aizen Sasuke had adopted this approach back then, not attempting to ascend to the throne as a villain, but instead donning the cloak of a savior, would he have failed? Gin Ichimaru's thoughts wandered a little. and he was deeply impressed by Chairman Nami's cunning. Perhaps it was all not a coincidence. From the birth of the first hollow in Karigakure, this script may have already been shaped in the chairman's mind. If the box of Elysium is opened and hollow monsters are released, then the concept of Hueco Mundo naturally comes into play. And since the box of Elysium possesses the attribute of a long history, it similarly verifies the long history of Hueco Mundo. Gin Ichimaru added. And everything that is verified in Hueco Mundo can naturally perfectly confirm the existence of the Seireitei. That's right, we don't need to publicize the existence of the Seireitei. After all, a righteous and ancient organization that protects the world should be low-key and mysterious. Only by appearing amidst much anticipation can it be romantic. Kaguya Nami seemed to have already constructed its storyboard in her mind. But evil is exactly the opposite. It should sweep in unrestrainedly, rampantly, ostentatiously, and without restraint, making the whole world see it, hear it, and feel it in the shortest amount of time. Only then can the atmosphere be pushed to its peak, and then, with a bang, we will shatter the entire world. Kaguya Nami's voice was full of emotion, infectious and imaginative. The scene she painted was breathtakingly beautiful. Gin Ichimaru had to admit that Nami's talent, overflowing from the page, was truly captivating in terms of script construction and rendering. Meanwhile, Mayuri Kuratsuchi, who was listening intently, made no attempt to hide his excitement, gesturing wildly with fervor. He was determined to secure the most significant role in the president's script. Don't worry, President, I'll find a way to open it. Mayuri Kuratsuchi glanced at the ugly face on the box of Elysium. How could a broken box possibly stop a scientist? It's not you opening it, but rather, it must be opened by the person I designate at the exact moment I want it to be opened, releasing the gift I've given him. Kaguya Nami corrected Mayuri Kuratsuchi. Yes, President. Mayuri Kuratsuchi would fulfill the president's expectations. Does President Nami already have someone in mind? Gin Ichimaru caught the unspoken meaning in Kaguya Nami's words. Someone destined not to disappoint me. Taking advantage of the Chunin exams, I can perfectly transfer the box of Elysium to Konoha, then detonate it under the spotlight to give Hueco Mundo some free advertising. Kaguya Nami's face revealed a pure smile. What a lucky person. I definitely won't delay the president's gift delivery. Mayuri Kuratsuchi decided that from tonight onwards, he would forego eating, drinking, and sleeping to meticulously prepare this gift for President Nami. Hazuki Castle has many heinous criminals who can be readily used as materials for transforming into hollows. It's very convenient. I will assist Mayuri Kuratsuchi. Gin Ichimaru silently mourned for the person chosen by the president. With 1 month until the Chunin exams, including travel time, they had nearly 3 weeks to prepare. Oh, right, practice your facial expressions more often. When we go to Konoha, we'll be disguised as grass ninja. On the surface, we should show the humility and kindness of a small ninja village. Don't constantly show that sinister, fake smile or neurotic expression that only evil villains have, Kaguya Nami added, still worried. Ichimaru Jin. Kuratsuchi Mayuri. The two squad leaders exchanged a glance, simultaneously forcing a smile that looked more like a grimace in the darkness, then silently turned their heads away. Kaguya Nami came out of the basement and went to check on the awakened Akaji Mori. Besides offering kind words of concern, she also gave some guidance and arrangements for the upcoming trip to Konoha. The guidance mainly focused on increasing intelligence gathering on Konoha. The grass ninja spies previously planted in Konoha could now operate covertly, especially paying close attention to the latest developments of the Uchiha clan, and finding a way to establish contact with Konoha's root organization. The Land of Fire is the greatest country in the world. Konoha is the greatest ninja village in the world. All the ninja villages, large and small, had spies planted in Konoha. Kusagakure, constantly striving for revival and harboring some shady secrets, naturally also had its own intelligence network within Konoha. Akaji Mori and Parasite No. 1 received their orders and immediately returned to the village with the original Kusagakure team. Following Kaguya Nami's instructions, they worked together to carry out the operation. Kaguya Nami returned to her room, washed her hands, took a bath, and burned incense, a ritual she never skipped, as long as possible. Lying on her bed, she clicked the lottery wheel. You have drawn a C-rank skill, Shadow Step. Shadow Step enters stealth and can pass through other units until attack or a skill is used. Breaking stealth will slow the target's movement speed, mana cost. 65, cooldown. 15s, Invisibility time. 0.75s, invisibility duration. 25s, movement speed slow. 24%, slow duration. 4s, you have obtained a C-grade item. 10 Scout Wards. Scout Ward places an invisible Scout Ward to gain vision within a 1,600 meter radius for 6 days. Casting range. 500 meters, a skill and an item, neither high level, but both highly functional. Kaguya Nami inexplicably conjured up some feasible scenarios. So. She was fairly satisfied with the prize and skill. After all, she had only manipulated a small part of the cheat, far from being able to fully control it. Ultimately, she was still too weak. Chapter 47 Malice from the Root. Under a clear blue sky, the hateful sunlight scorched the earth, piercing through cracks in the ground and occasionally casting shadows on a few stinking rats hiding in the sewers. At that moment, hyenas, already drawn by the scent, would pounce without hesitation, snatching the fresh carcass back to their masters. 2 weeks later. Konoha, Root. In a cold, damp prison, a man, covered in wounds and blood, hung suspended, riddled with countless nail holes, subjected to various cruel tortures. Root-trained ninjas were inhuman. Therefore, no one could keep quiet under Root's torture, let alone a grass village spy who had already been exposed. For him, readily revealing all the information and then facing death was the best outcome. Did they all vomit? Of course, the human mouth is the least secretive part of the world. What did they say? The spies from Kusagakure have been secretly contacting the Uchiha and have already made a deal. In a few days, during the Chunin exams, the Kusagakure delegation will bring something called the Box of Bliss into the village, and then secretly use the power of the Uchiha to open it. The Box of Bliss? What is that? A treasure the Kusagakure has protected for generations. After opening the box, one can make a wish, but to open it, one needs to use extremely evil chakra. So Kusagakure sought cooperation with the Uchiha. In terms of chakra attributes, apart from the tailed beasts, the Uchiha clan's chakra seems to be cursed, naturally filled with a cold and evil aura. This was the information obtained from the Kusagakure spies after the Root interrogation. This confidential information quickly reached the hands of Root leader Shimura Danzo. With his face wrapped in bandages, revealing only a sinister eye, Shimura Danzo read the intelligence report in his hand, his expression shifting between anger and uncertainty. The Uchiha are indeed people you can't let your guard down for a moment. If you're not careful, they've already colluded with other villages. The Root members beside him all kept their eyes downcast, their leader's malice and wariness towards the Uchiha never concealed. The Box of Bliss, Kusagakure? HMPH, a mere little ninja village dares to be so reckless. They can't blame me for being ruthless. Shimura Danzo slammed the intelligence report shut, his face revealing a chilling killing intent. This intelligence doesn't need to be reported to the Hokage. Next, send men to secretly ambush the Kusagakure convoy and bring the Box of Bliss back to Root. Theoretically, Root was also Konoha's intelligence and assassination agency, under the command of the Hokage, Hiruzen Seireitei. However, in reality, Root had long been transformed by Shimura Danzo into an impenetrable fortress, where everyone, from top to bottom, obeyed only his orders. Of course, this was also a result of the Hokage and the elders' tacit approval. The Hokage represented Konoha's will of fire, the light in the open. Root, on the other hand, was the cold, hidden shadow beneath Konoha's soil. Light and shadow, seemingly distinct, are in fact an intertwined tapestry of branches and roots, tightly integrated from the very beginning, never separated. 4 days later, on a relatively desolate dirt road within the Land of Fire, a group of grass ninja wearing straw raincoats and hats hurried along the path. The road was muddy, and their hurried footsteps kicked up splashes of mud that landed on the quiet bushes on either side of the road. Akaji Mori had a long black toad strapped to his back. He walked silently with his head down, his eyes moving at an unusually rapid pace, quickly capturing every rustle of grass around him. "I smell food nearby. They're coming." Number One's voice echoed in Akaji Mori's mind, a rare hint of expectation in his cold tone. "I know. Just don't let me really die." Akaji Mori's pupils contracted, his body stopped abruptly, his head snapped back, and a kunai raised his nose. In their field of vision, gray-clad ninjas suddenly emerged from the bushes on both sides, attacking them without a word. Several grass ninjas, caught off guard, were immediately ambushed and had their throats slit. The spurting blood reflected crimson ribbons in the sunlight, and they were dead. Suddenly ambushed, they were almost powerless to resist and faced a one-sided slaughter. Most of the grass ninjas didn't even have time to form hand seals before collapsing into the muddy blood pit, clutching their throats. Akaji Mori's breathing was somewhat rapid, not because his comrades had been slaughtered, but because the bloody smell in the air stimulated his taste buds, causing him to salivate. He swayed his head from side to side to dodge the slashing blades, and Akaji Mori let out a suppressed growl. He pushed off with his feet, his whole body slamming into the chest of his opponent. His right hand instantly deformed into a fleshy scythe, piercing through the opponent's ribs like tofu. Then, the fleshy scythe split open a sharp tooth and bit into the heart, swallowing it whole. "What are you doing?" Akaji Mori was startled by the action of his right hand. "Who told this idiot to keep aiming for the head? You won't survive if your head is smashed open. Besides, I'm starving." Number 1 swallowed a heart, slightly relieving his hunger. Plan, what if you mess this up? Akaji Mori was getting frantic. Number 1 usually acted very rationally and coldly. Why did he seem a bit out of control today? "Don't worry, I've blocked their view with my body. I'm stealing the food very discreetly, they can't see me. Don't rush me, I'll die now." With his right hand, he pushed aside the corpse with a hole in its chest, and Akaji Mori watched helplessly as another gray-clad ninja pounced on him, aiming a slash at his head. An impatient look appeared on Akaji Mori's face. He used the same trick again, crashing into the man's arms. After a frantic struggle, the two of them collapsed limply to the ground. The ninja's chest was dented and mangled, his eyes bulging out in fury. Akaji Mori lay limply on top of him, a short knife protruding from his vest. Akaji Mori felt the organs inside his chest writhe strangely, avoiding the blade that had pierced his body diagonally. Then, all his muscles went limp, his respiratory muscles became smooth and stiff, and his heart and pulse fell into a state of suspended animation. A moment later, someone turned Akaji Mori's body over with their foot, a cold voice saying, "They're all dead." "Where is the box of bliss?" someone asked. "I don't know what you're talking about," a captured grass ninja replied, his face deathly pale. Swoosh! The sound of metal slicing through a throat, the body falling heavily to the ground. A moment later, the cylinder on Akaji Mori's body was removed, a voice saying, "The sealing scroll, found. The box of bliss should be sealed inside the scroll. Clean up and prepare, evacuate immediately." Akaji Mori lay motionless on the ground. The body beneath him being pulled out and taken away, leaving only the grass ninja's own corpses at the scene. As they left, a sharp, heavy shuriken pressed down on Akaji Mori's back. Very professional. The footsteps faded into the distance, and a cold wind swept across the corpses scattered on the ground. One of the corpses had its arm twisted strangely, wrapped around a shuriken on its back, and then pulled it out with a soft plop. P.S. I highly recommend an old book, One Piece, The Order of the Mother Nest. If you like this book, you'll probably like this one too. It's a bit slow burning, but it really takes off after chapter 70. Among all the One Piece fanfiction online, mine might be the only one. You'll regret it if you don't read it. Shameless plug. If you're looking for something to read, check it out. QQ Group 798,230,019. Recommended. Absolutely fantastic. Chapter 48 Victim or Perpetrator? The shuriken on his back was pulled out, and the outward turned wound was squeezed inward, wrinkling and quickly healing, forming new granulation tissue. Akaji Mori got up and surveyed the rearranged crime scene. Now only the bodies of the grass ninja village remained. The bodies of the murderers had been collected and taken away. He examined each body, and sure enough, he discovered something suspicious. Most of the bodies had been struck again with a shuriken at their original fatal wounds, making it appear as if the ninjas had been killed by shuriken. Even more interestingly, these shuriken were wrapped with thin, broken, transparent threads. It was well known that the Uchiha clan, possessing the Sharingan, were the ones who could wield shuriken with the unparalleled skill of needlework. Furthermore, Akaji Mori pulled a torn piece of cloth from the clenched hand of one of the corpses. The cloth was black with a 3/4 fan pattern printed in the center. The fan, the Uchiha clan crest. They're trying to pin the blame on the Uchiha clan, how underhanded. Akaji Mori sneered. Having been chosen by the chairman to drive and execute the entire plan, he was well aware of the complete web of events behind the attack. The box of bliss sealed in the scroll was given to him by Captain Mayuri Kuratsuchi. The timing and route to Konoha were personally planned by Captain Gin Ichimaru. Clearly, everything was part of the chairman's plan. From beginning to end, this was a trap set for Konoha's root, and Danzo Shimura, known as the Dark Lord of the shinobi world, had indeed fallen right into it. A few light footsteps sounded behind him. Akaji Mori quickly turned around and bowed to the figures behind him, saying, "Chairman, the gift has been delivered." The figures behind him were Kaguya Nami, Mayuri Kuratsuchi, Gin Ichimaru, and 2 other Kusagakure Shinin chosen to participate in the Chunin exams. The 3 Shinigami had all removed their standard Shinigami uniforms and donned outfits different from their usual attire. Mayuri Kuratsuchi changed into a researcher's white lab coat, and wore a small, smiling mask. He had followed President Nami's advice and made the smile on the mask particularly vibrant. Gin Ichimaru changed into a pristine white outfit, spotless and clean, and wore a stern, unsmiling human skin mask. Both of them had donned what they considered to be the proper appearances of upright people, something Kaguya Nami declined to comment on. On this trip to Konoha, Mayuri Kuratsuchi and Gin Ichimaru would accompany Mori Akaji, their public identities being that of an elder of Kusagakure and the Jonin leading the Kusagakure Shinin team, respectively. Kaguya Nami, on the other hand, was dressed in standard, simple ninja attire, with a Kusagakure headband tied around her shoulder. Her mask was gone, revealing a pale, handsome, and gentle smile. Yes, Kaguya Nami was indeed a member of the Kusagakure Shinin team participating in the Chunin exams. Despite possessing the soul of a 200-year-old Shinigami and over 1,000 years of memories as a demon, the original body of his artificial body is still only 12 years old. This is within the age range for participating in the Chunin exams. He hasn't lied about his age, nor is it considered cheating. His face, brimming with collagen, is exquisitely flawless, bearing a slight resemblance to Kaguya Nami's true face, though minor adjustments have been made to the lines, making it appear more androgynous and softer. This is a face custom made with a thin layer of illusion, perfect yet fragile. After all, it's bright daylight, and he doesn't have Muzan Kibutsuji's card installed on him. Otherwise, he could have undergone more extreme plastic surgery by shaving flesh and grinding bones. Kaguya Nami has tried installing Muzan Kibutsuji's card under sunlight, then using her nen ability to weave a membrane to cover her entire body beforehand, blocking out the sunlight. The result was frustrating. The nen membrane, capable of blocking airflow, still couldn't withstand the sunlight. It felt like looking through frosted glass. Light and heat would inevitably penetrate. In just 5 seconds, Kaguya Nami felt her skin burning hot, black smoke billowing from her body. She decisively removed the card to prevent spontaneous combustion. It seemed that overcoming the weakness to sunlight would have to wait until later. The feeling of sunlight penetrating her skin was deeply imprinted in Kaguya Nami's mind at that moment. Even after removing Muzan Kibutsuji's card, that feeling of disgust would still linger in her body. Meanwhile, one of the other 2 grass ninja participating in the Chunin exams held a black umbrella above Kaguya Nami's head. Akaji Mori subconsciously looked at the 2 Shinin. Then, meeting their eyes were 4 pairs of clear, black and white eyes, devoid of any impurity or emotion. "Don't look them in the eye, they are my kind," number 1 said to Akaji Mori in his mind. "Your kind, Hanafo Satoru and Kishao, have also been parasitized." Akaji Mori frowned. Hanafo Satoru and Kishao were the names of the 2 grass ninja Shinin, originally chosen as cannon fodder. Therefore, Akaji Mori naturally selected 2 Shinin from the village who were weak and of extremely poor character. Akaji Mori now fully understood the power of the parasites, so he couldn't understand why these 2 guys had been chosen by the guild leader and given such a precious reward. Idiot. Number 1 read the sourness in Akaji Mori's mind. "They are different from you. They are completely parasitized. In terms of level, my companions have evolved more thoroughly than me. Complete parasitism equals brain eaten." Akaji Mori's heart skipped a beat, and he dared not meet those 2 pairs of eyes again. It's good that the gift has been given out. I hope the recipient will use it well, otherwise, wouldn't it be a waste of all these lives? Kaguya Nami said. They couldn't even wait for us to deliver it to the village, they rushed to snatch it. I think they'll definitely try to open this gift as soon as possible, Gin Ichimaru chimed in. Sigh, it's all out of necessity, Nami Kaguya sighed. A brighter, more beautiful future always requires bloodshed and sacrifice. So, let me offer a prayer for these wronged souls killed by Danzo Shimura. Don't worry, I will avenge you. The chairman is merciful, Gin Ichimaru and Mayuri Kuratsuchi understood and praised him in unison. The chairman is merciful. Moriakaji paused for a moment, then, hearing the urging from number one in his mind, seemed to understand and quickly added, "You have achieved an accomplishment. My subordinates were almost wiped out. My subordinates were almost wiped out. Under Danzo Shimura's orders, my subordinates just suffered a merciless massacre and were almost wiped out." Achievement points gained 1,000. This sudden achievement stunned Kaguya Nami. So, being a victim can also earn you an achievement? Could this be the correct way to farm achievements? You have initiated the event, debt collection. Your subordinates suffered a massacre, and you were heartbroken and determined to avenge them. The debt calculation method is as follows. 1. The culprits are Shimura Danzo and his root organization. For each root member killed or severely injured, you will receive 200 achievement points. Killing or severely injuring Shimura Danzo will reward you with 5,000 achievement points too. The Hokage and Konoha are also involved in the cover-up and are equally responsible. Taking advantage of the Chunin exams, you will teach Konoha a lesson. For each Konoha team eliminated during the exam, you will receive 400 achievement points. Eliminating all Konoha teams will grant an additional 2,000 achievement points. The Chunin exams will end. P.S. When you step from behind the scenes to the forefront, please always remember that Kaguya Nami should be a good person. Kaguya Nami. So, do you want me to be the victim, or the perpetrator? What do you hope for? If you are listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means it was downloaded and re-uploaded without effort. We warmly invite you to visit our channel, Fanfic World. There you will find the original version of this story and many other novels of various genres. We look forward to seeing you dive into a world of incredible novels. Chapter 49 Hisoka appears. Two birds with one stone. To be a prostitute while maintaining a virtuous image, isn't that appealing? Kaguya Nami's lips curled into a slight smile as she earnestly finished her prayer for the corpses of her subordinates. Send them to the Pure Land. Go to the Pure Land for a while, consider it a vacation. Once the Seireitei's business expansion is over, you can come back to clock in. Kaguya Nami mercifully promised, then deposited her newly acquired achievement points into the lottery wheel. While traveling, there was no opportunity for him to bathe and burn incense, but the pervasive scent of blood in the air completed the ritualistic scene. You have drawn an A-rank skill, divide and you will be. You can summon imperfect, semi-autonomous clones that can gain experience and achievement points like the original, and possess the original's experience, attributes, skills, and talents. However, clones can only use the original's footwear, equipment, and miscellaneous items. The death of any clone will result in the death of all clones. Mana cost 0, cooldown 0, passive skill, current clone limit 1, a passive skill, meaning it doesn't need to be activated and cannot be actively reclaimed, at least for now. Before he could think further, his body began to change strangely. Mayuri Kuratsuchi and Gin Ichimaru immediately noticed something, looking over suspiciously. The remaining three also belatedly looked over. Because Kaguya Nami's body had undergone obvious and bizarre changes. In their vision, they saw that Nami, who was walking, suddenly exuded an evil aura. Then, a fleshy tumor swelled up on her shoulder, rapidly deforming and replicating into the same face, and then two arms grew out, tearing and detaching from her body. It was like cell proliferation and division, strangely tearing out another identical cell from the original mother body. Clonjutsu? Akaji Mori was stunned, but the eerie imagery made him realize this was definitely not a clonjutsu. No matter what form a ninja's clone takes, it's ultimately just a mass of chakra separated from their own body, essentially a fake body. No matter how many clones are created, the total strength remains the same. But this one felt very different. It was a mass of flesh that had grown and split off from the chairman's body. It was ridiculous. They're all the real masters, number one said Akaji Mori in his mind. The remaining two fully parasitic beasts were even more acute in their perception and reacted more directly. They saw Hanafuji Satoru and Onizumi each holding a black umbrella, which they held above the heads of the two Nami chairman members. The physical texture emanating from the body is real, even the soul is present, and it possesses strength basically equivalent to the original body. It's not like the flashy but fragile clones of ninjas. This one can be seen as another Nami-kun, as if the kun's strength has doubled out of thin air. Ichimaru-jin squinted, looking thoughtfully at the two identical Nami-kun. The kun's strength seemed to be rapidly unlocking. Was this still just the tip of the iceberg? A perfect clone. Kuratsuchi Mayuri's eyes shone. He saw more than the others. The same textured artificial body was one thing, but even the frequency and strength of the soul were almost identical. It was truly mesmerizing. If I could also possess this technology, then... Kuratsuchi Mayuri's thoughts went astray. Adding up all the above imagined feelings, it was roughly equivalent to Kaguya Nami's own perception of clones. Except for not being able to use the equipment's abilities, but being able to inherit the attributes granted by the equipment, everything else is perfectly consistent with the original body, and it possesses semi-autonomous thinking, able to complete the tasks I assign in complete accordance with my wishes, because it also inherits my experience, and this experience includes not only experience points, but also my personality quirks. In short, apart from not having any cheat codes, it is a clone that is 90% of my strength, completely loyal to myself, another me. Shared strength, shared thinking, shared intelligence, shared personality quirks. Even when the clone acts independently, it can still trigger achievement points. Wait a minute, there seems to be a bug here. If I and the clone complete a mission together, how should the reward achievement points be calculated? Is it distributed as 1? Or as 2? The two Kaguya Nami looked at each other at the same time, their eyes containing a hint of fervor, seemingly impressed by the other self's keenness. They couldn't wait to trigger an opportunity to verify it. The only downside is that even life and death are shared. The original body and the clone are connected heart to heart, without needing to speak. They can complete a dialogue without distance limitations in their consciousness and reach a consensus. Until the drawbacks of sharing life and death can be eliminated, more dangerous or hate-detracting tasks will be prioritized for the main body who can use the equipment, while the clone will complete relatively safer and more secure missions. In other words, during this trip to Konoha, the clone will assume the name, Kaguya Nami, to establish a virtuous persona and try every means to win over good guys, while the main body will change its identity to seek revenge against Konoha and fulfill its role as the mastermind behind the scenes. Just like the pairing of Hirozen Sarutobi and Denzo Shimura, one is light and the other is shadow. The main body and the clone's performance must also be one good and one evil, the good being the name, Kaguya Nami, and the evil being the disguise of magician, Hisoka. So, the main body reached out and rubbed his cheek, tearing off the gentle smile and putting on a bewitching and evil face again. He bit his finger and used the blood to smear a tear on his face as makeup. Then, revealing a dangerous and morbid smile, he commanded those watching him, "From now on, when I appear before you with this face, I am Hisoka. Remember, don't let it slip. Yes, I am Kaguya Nami. And when there are outsiders, I'm not the guild leader, I'm just an ordinary Jinan from Kusagakure." The clone, sporting a gentle and kind face, greeted everyone. "We will follow the guild leader's orders," everyone answered in unison. "When there's free time on the road, could Mayuri Kuratsuchi please have me make a new outfit? I like the playing card design." The main body, assuming the identity of Hisoka, a Jinan from Kusagakure, began to speak. "When we arrive in Konoha, please remember to report to Chief Akaji Mori. There are 4 Jinan from Kusagakure participating in the Chunin exams. Have them form groups of 3, I'll travel alone. Exam list, Hanafu Sadara, Onizuka, and Kaguya Nami will participate in the exam as a group of 3. Hisoka, alone." Chapter 50 Divine Skill. Is there a bug in this skill? Root. A dark, empty basement. A chilling, evil aura suddenly filled the air as a square, demon-faced stone door was summoned from a ceiling scroll. The Box of Bliss. Shimura Danzo reached out and touched the demon's face on the stone statue. The touch was icy cold, and a lingering, resentful, twisted energy covered it. It feels just like the ominous chakra of the Nine Tails. So, do I need the Uchiha's help to open this box? Shimura Danzo gently stroked his crimson eyes beneath the bandages. After receiving information about the Box of Bliss that day, he had taken it very seriously, searching through all the records and documents preserved in Konoha. Finally, in a hidden corner of a scroll, he found a clue about the Box of Bliss. There are 2 versions of the legend. Version 1, the Box of Bliss, also known as the Pleasure Box, is a ninja tool used by the Sage of Six Paths. The Sage of Six Paths is the legendary founder of ninjutsu, the progenitor of chakra. Version 2, the Box of Bliss possesses unknown power. The Land of Grass prospered because of it, but ultimately declined as a result. Combining the information at his disposal, Shimura Danzo naturally deduced that the truth lay in version 2, and that unknown power was likely related to wishing. Can any wish be granted? Shimura Danzo didn't believe a box could possess such power, unless the Sage of Sixth Paths was imprisoned inside, in which case it might be possible. But even if only some wishes can be fulfilled, that's enough. I need to find a way to open it. Shimura Danzo pondered. Have you gotten any information from the Grass Village spy about how the Uchiha will open the box of bliss? Shimura Danzo asked the root member behind him. No, his answer was always I don't know, which I believe is the truth. The root member answered truthfully. It was normal for a spy below to not know such a crucial secret. Shimura Danzo didn't have much hope. It was just a casual question. Were any survivors left from the Grass Ninja Village? No, they handled it all very cleanly. The scene was staged to frame the Uchiha. There should have been a few survivors. Oh well, since the Grass Ninja Village needs the Uchiha's help to open the box, the Uchiha should know something. Let's try to find a way through the Uchiha. Shimura Danzo sneered. Understood. The root member understood Danzo's implication. He would arrange for some Uchiha members to visit Root. Also, judging by the time, the Grass Ninja Village should have realized that the Box of Paradise has been stolen by the Uchiha. They will not let this go easily and will definitely send another group to Konoha to participate in the Chunin exams. From now on, closely monitor the village entrances and exits and the Uchiha clan's territory. Report to me immediately if you discover that the Grass Ninja Village people have arrived. Shimura Danzo's eyes flashed with a sinister light. What does Lord Danzo intend to do? The root member wearing a mask accepted the order. The root members were all cold-blooded and competent killing machines, their only problem being their somewhat dim-wittedness. Many orders required Danzo to break them down in detail, omitting even a single word could lead to disaster. Like this time, their attack on Kusagakure and the theft of the Box of Bliss were flawless, but because he omitted a crucial detail in his orders, they left no one alive, and besides the Box of Bliss, they brought back nothing else. Don't show hostility towards Kusagakure. Remember, these small ninja villages have come from afar to be our Konoha ninjas' foils in the Chunin exams. They are guests. We must treat them like hosts. Danzo Shimura sneered disdainfully. If our guests are bullied by some villains in the village, or lose something important, then we must uphold fairness and help them impartially. Such resolve. Even Kaguya Nami would be ashamed to tears upon hearing this. And so, a week later, the group from Kusagakure, having leisurely traversed a significant portion of the Land of Fire, successfully arrived at Konoha. They submitted their information to the barrier team and awaited approval to enter. Strictly speaking, at most half of this group were pure-blooded humans. 2 were pure Shinigami, 2 were parasitic beasts, 2 were fusions and clones of Shinigami and Oni, and Akaji Mori, ostensibly 7 people in total, but in reality, only Akaji Mori represented half a person. There were practically none. You can go in now. The barrier team ninja dutifully registered the 7 people's information and, after receiving approval, let them in. They had no idea what they were letting in. 7 shadows leaned against long, dark umbrellas cast by the sunlight. Kaguya Nami and Hisoka, dressed in a playing card outfit, simultaneously wiped the mud from their shoes onto the clean ground of Konoha. A message popped into my mind. You've achieved the achievement. Sign in at Konoha. Sign in at Konoha? It's unbelievable that Konoha would allow you to swagger in like that. Are they blind? Gain 500 achievement points. Statistical error. Recalculating. This achievement was achieved simultaneously by both the main character and the clone. Based on the passive skill principle of divide and conquer, both the main character and the clone are eligible to receive experience and achievement points. The achievement point reward has been readjusted as follows. Main character gains 500 achievement points, clone gains 150 achievement points. The clone's experience and achievement points are calculated at 30% of the main characters. You have gained a total of 650 achievement points. Although 2 sets of achievement points weren't issued, they were ultimately calculated at 1.3 times the base amount. The extra 30% was essentially free money. It's like getting 1.3 times the salary for every job you do from now on. That's pretty awesome. The effect of 500 achievement points is not obvious at first glance, but what if the base is increased to 1,000, 10,000, or even 100,000 points? And this isn't a one-time effect, accumulating over time. The extra 30% will be an astronomical figure. Therefore, The most powerful aspect of the splitting to create skill isn't actually replicating one's own combat power, but this 30% bug. This isn't just an A-rank skill. It's a god-tier skill for farming achievement points. The true value of this skill is immeasurable. Even if Kaguya Nami were to trade it for a 3S rank card, she wouldn't trade it. Even more terrifying is that the maximum number of clones that can be created with splitting to create is 1, and that's just the current limit. The word current is quite intriguing. The air is filled with a sweet smell. I love this place. Hisoka and Kaguya Nami smiled at each other, both feeling even more excited about their days in Konoha. Today's chapter is released early, please vote. Mwah. End of this chapter. Thank you so much for reading until the end. Don't forget to give it a like. Looking for more exclusive content and immediate access? Subscribe to our Patreon. Remember, every like, subscription or donation encourages us to continue. Thank you all. See you in the next video.